This meeting to order then for the February 20th, 2025 Conejo Recreation Park District Board of Directors regular meeting. And without prior notice, I'm going to ask if our special presentation guests would like to lead us in the flag salute this evening. And that means yes. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Brian. All right, Madam Clerk, may we have the roll call, please?
Director Buss.
Present.
Director Cusworth.
Yes.
Director Huffer.
Yes.
Director Nichols.
Yes.
Director Orozco.
Here.
Thank you very much. Next, we have special presentations. And with that, I guess do I just hand it right over to Brian and Sarah for the Ride On Therapeutic Horsemanship presentation? Glad to have you with us this evening. Again, it's always good to see you folks.
Not their first rodeo.
Not even good.
We also manage Worship Church Community Wrestling Center right here in the South Oaks. Thank you to the board. Thank you.
Oh, there we go. I'm on. Thank you to the board. Thank you to Conejo Recreation and Park District for the partnership that we have with you guys. We can't express enough and how strongly it means to us and what we're able to do for the community and the equestrian community at large. To be able to provide affordable equestrian programming and the services that we provide for our kids and adults with disabilities. So let's go ahead and have a quick look at what we do. And this is firstly, we're going to look out at Rancho Potrero Community Equestrian Center. So we provide, like I said, affordable equestrian programming for the community out at Rancho Potrero Community Equestrian Center in partnership with the Conejo Recreation and Park District. So we do provide ongoing lessons for beginners and intermediate in English and Western disciplines. This year, even though we were slammed at the beginning of the year by some atmospheric rivers that stopped our lesson programming for quite some time, we did actually provide, I'm sorry, this PowerPoint's going really quick. Can you figure out? Okay, there you go. All right, so there it goes. Anyway, we provided 1,807 lessons in 2024, which we're super proud of. We also provide summer and spring Wrangler and mini Wrangler camps. So last year we provided 6 weeks of camp for 70 campers. It's always absolutely very, very popular. It fills up within minutes of going on the registration site. And we have a great time out there with our campers. They absolutely love it. This is just an example of our lessons going on in our dressage arena with Boney Mountain behind us, and then some campers just having a good time there. We also provide ongoing intro to horseback riding classes and intro to horsemanship classes. They happen on Saturday afternoons out at Rancho Potrero in partnership with you guys, with the Conejo Recreation and Park District. There are 3-week series of classes where kids learn to ride, groom, all the horsemanship skills that we encourage folks to get involved with, just really getting hands-on with horses and learning absolutely everything more than just riding. Our intro to horseback riding classes last year had 134 participants. Right now, we're just about to start another series of classes. It's full with a massive wait list. Again, not massive, but a good wait list. So there's an example of our intro classes. Again, we use our volunteers to help. And these are intro lessons where they're beginning to walk and trot. We also provide schooling shows and clinics out at Rancho Potrero. We have an ongoing clinic program in partnership actually with El Campeon Farms, which is an equitation. There it is. It's working equitation, and we've got another series of those going on through 2025. We also put on schooling shows, dressage schooling shows. We've got one coming up on March 3rd. They're open to all of the students at Rancho Potrero, the public, and all of our boarders as well. So we're also a boarding facility for 116 horses at Rancho Potrero. So we also incorporate the boarders, and they join in the programs and the shows that we offer. We do team building events. We've offered team building events to corporations such as Yamaha Guitars, the city of LA. We had another foundation from Westlake Village come out and do a team building event with us this year in 2024. So that's basically unmounted, where groups work as a team to ask the horse to do various obstacles. And it brings the team together and allows them to work through and solve problems together. And it's a lot of fun. So if anybody wants to come out and try it, it's a good time. We also offer a trail ride program. So we take trail rides out. I'm just going to swing that back again so it comes back to that page. We offer trail rides on Friday afternoons, Saturday mornings, and Sunday afternoons. 434 trail rides went out during 2024. And again, we were kind of stopped by the weather with all the rain that we had at the beginning of the year. And then, we get stopped by wind and mud as well. So we're a very safe trail riding program. We make sure that when we go out, it's safe for our public and it's safe for our horses as well. So this is some of the open space that we're just so lucky to be part of. It's so cool. We also offer programming out at Rancho Potrero for groups like Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts. Let's see what's coming next. Oh, so this was a big one for us this year. So it's gone again. Oh, sorry. Okay, so this year we opened up Rancho Potrero to be an evacuation site during the wildfires. So we took in, during the fires, we took in 68 horses, a mini cow, a couple of donkeys, and 4 goats. We took in evacuations from the Palisades Fire, the Kenneth Fire, the Hughes Fire, the Mountain Fire, and the Franklin Fire. It was a big deal for us in terms of staff support, but it's something that we absolutely knew we had to do. So we are, fully open and welcomed folks all through the night, day and night, to come in, get a safe spot for their horses. There's a couple of the gypsy vanners that came in, and they could stay just as long as they wanted. So that was a really cool thing. There's our mini cow, who apparently didn't want to leave. It took our guys a long time to wrestle him back in the trailer. One of our friendly goats. Last year, we also hosted the CalNet Horse Show, which is a horse show that's normally held at the Los Angeles Equestrian Center, but we got ceremoniously booted out last year for a couple of reasons. So we managed to very quickly pick up and move the entire show, which is a 3-day show for kids and adults with disabilities, over to Rancho Potrero Community Equestrian Center, which was a really huge deal. And it just showed how flexible the staff were out there, and how, really we could move that show very safely into such a beautiful environment with a great facility and run a first-class show for our kids out there. So it was pretty amazing. Trail Fest is another event that we hold out there that's actually a ride-on event where we take our kids and adults with disabilities out to enjoy the open space, something that kids with disabilities wouldn't normally get the opportunity to do. The Kiwanis of Thousand Oaks provide our lunch for us, and for all of our volunteers and all of our kids and adults. So we have hundreds of volunteers, hundreds of riders that go out through the day. It's a big effort, but as you can see, our riders absolutely love this day. We love it. To be able to get out in the open space like this is just something that's just so special. I mean, it really is. It's a really cool event. It's in June. If anybody wants to come out and join us, we would love to see you. This is another day that we absolutely love. This is a group of teenage girls that come to LA from across the whole country for a week, where they enjoy going to the beach, just having fun times in LA. And then one of their days is coming to us for the day to come and experience a horseback ride. We take them out on the tractor, out to the open space. They do crafts. This is, I think we had 40 girls participate throughout the day in 2024. They're coming again in July. That's one of their favorite activities of their camp. And then another group that come out and participate with us is the Safe Passage Youth Foundation. They were just out recently. I think we had 33 kids that came out and enjoyed some horseback riding, and again, a tractor ride, one of Brian's favorite things to do. And we obviously teach them grooming. We teach them how to pick out the horse's feet. We teach them how to put the saddle on, all the good things that come with actually learning to ride a horse. Oh, we also hosted a border barbecue with Santa for Christmas this year. So that was a hit with our borders. And then let's move over to Walnut Grove. So we've looked at Rancho Potrero Community Equestrian Center, and this is Walnut Grove, which is our adaptive riding and therapy services program, which we've been operating now for 25 years. We're growing out there. This year we managed to give 3,684 adaptive horseback riding lessons, which was a record for us. I'll just slow this down a bit so I can explain what the next slide is. The next one is actually our therapy services program, which is physical, occupational, and speech therapy on horseback. The program out there is not quite as big. We've got a bigger program for therapy services in Chatsworth, but it is growing, 184 sessions. And we also have a therapy room indoors where we can treat our patients when the weather's bad or if they're doing evaluations and whatnot. So we have that availability as well. Kids love our Halloween celebration every year. Everybody gets dressed up, has a good time. We also have a summer camp, a couple of weeks of summer camp every year at the Walnut Grove location. The CRPD Therapeutics group also come out during the summer. Oh, this 2024, we actually got involved with the Costco Trail Education Days, which is an education day for middle schoolers, teaching them about the open space and how to recreate well with bikes and horses and all the things. That's a really cool day that we actually got to participate in this year. We enjoyed doing that. One of our fundraising events was hosted by El Campeon Farms. We had a brunch in the barn. We've done that a couple of years now. It's a really nice opportunity for us because we can take our program, because there's actually an equestrian facility there. So our program goes to our guests and we're able to show them what we do on a daily basis at Ride On, but within this beautiful environment. What next? Well, there you go. And last year was our 30-year anniversary. So we have been operating for 30 years now in 4 locations, actually, in addition to the 2 that we operate at Rancho Potrero and at Walnut Grove. And this year we were super proud to actually hit 10,000 lessons and treatment sessions given for the first time. So we're pretty proud of that. Have I missed anything, Brian? No. That's it. That's all we've done. That's all we do. Questions?
I'm exhausted.
I know, it's a bit quick.
Board comments, questions? All right, I'll start with Director Hoover.
No real questions, but just comments. All the programs that you folks put on, both at Rancho Potrero and at Walnut Grove, are just absolutely spectacular.
Thank you.
Just the fact that you have such a long waiting list for the camps and the programs that you have over at Rancho Potrero certainly speaks to how popular horseback riding remains in our community, even though we keep growing and building new homes and stuff. But horseback riding, equestrian, is still huge in our community, and it's great that the young folks and the not so young folks have an opportunity to take part in that. Congratulations, by the way, in your 30 years. It's hard to believe it's been that long. You guys do such a great job with the therapeutics program and all of the folks that you've helped, but almost as important is all the young folks who have come out to help as volunteers. Because certainly one of the things that's really stands out for our community is the volunteerism, and the programs that you have at Walnut Grove give a lot of young folks the opportunity to help out. So thank you for everything that you folks do, and continued success for another 30 years.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's so important what you're doing for the community because horses are just such magical creatures to be around. I've had the pleasure of being around them for the last 6 years due to my girls both riding. And it's just, it took a while for me to be comfortable around them, and be honest, because if you don't start as a child, which my kids are like, they'll walk through any horse and talk to, like, pet them and everything. And I was like, oh my gosh. But now that I've been around them for a while, I definitely have built the relationships with them. And I think that that's so important. I was curious with the therapeutics, what is the age range that the kids usually are coming and doing the lessons? Is it just like a specific age range, or is it pretty broad?
So for the adaptive riding program, we start at 5 and we go as old as you can think. Under 5, we always recommend that they start with therapy services, which is physical, speech, or occupational therapy. So they'll start with a therapist just to make sure we're not doing more harm than good. And then once they're 5, they're welcome to join the adaptive riding program, which is more of actually learning to ride the horse, but it still has all the therapeutic benefits that therapy services does as well. So
Yeah, it was so interesting when last year when I got to go to the El Campeon brunch and they were explaining the therapeutic services and all of that. And because where my daughters ride, they don't have that. So it was really interesting to hear about it and how it helps the children. So I just really appreciate you guys taking on that as your mission.
Thank you.
So thank you for everything you do for the community. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Director Buss and Director Orozco.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to take a quick moment to say once again, thank you so much for a couple weeks ago having me out to the Walnut Grove location. It was such a pleasure and such a great morning to spend with you all, just better understanding the services that you offer and just the lives that you reach and touch, and whether it's the volunteers or your staff or just the participants themselves, the riders. So yeah, thank you so much. It really is. So important, and I was able to better understand that relationship that you guys have with CRPD, and it is such an honor to be a part of.
Thank you. And Director Cussworth.
Yes, thank you. You know, as you were showing the presentation, I just thought of the variety of things that you're doing there. I mean, the therapeutics and team building and working with youth groups and then general horseback riding, trail rides and the lessons. And it's very impressive. I was wondering, I've been to Walnut Grove and the Chatsworth and Rancho Potrero, but did you say you had a fourth location?
We do in Pasadena.
In Pasadena, is that a new location or have you had that a long
It's
time?
new. Yes, it's our newest. We've been there a couple of years, and we're lucky to be in partnership with the city of Pasadena out there. So it's another really wonderful situation that we have out there with a strong partnership. So we're very
Well, I'm impressed
Lucky.
that you keep all of these going. I mean, that's quite a bit. Does it offer the same sort of services as Rancho Potrero?
It's more of an adaptive riding and therapy services
Oh,
program
okay.
in Pasadena, and it's a smaller footprint. So it's we've actually quadrupled in size the services that we're offering since we actually took the management of that facility, but it's a little bit smaller.
Wonderful. I was also very excited to see that the area was being used for the evacuation of the animals. Because I know at one time people were questioning, why are you keeping all of these extra stalls? You're going to be multiplying, you're going to be having, you know, lots more horses here. It's going to be crowded. There's going to be rodeos. And when we said, well, no, we're keeping them for evacuation. So it was nice to see that, yes, it was used for evacuation. And it was good to have it there. I mean, if somebody's, you know, worried about losing their home, at least they don't have to lose their animals. So I thought that was really impressive. So I'm glad that the facility was able to be used for that. So, and I was also, as the people were riding, I thought it wasn't that long ago that horseback riding was an essential skill. I mean, that's how people got around. You had to learn how to horseback ride. And now it's just, you know, used for therapeutic or recreational, but how nice that we have that in our community, which used to be such a ranching community and which had a lot of our history relating to horseback stagecoaches. People could only access this valley basically using a horse or walking, that we still have something that is reminiscent of what we used to be. So a lot of historical significance to what you're doing. Thank you very much. Really enjoyed the presentation.
Thank you. And thank you, Sarah and Brian, for both being here, but for Sarah for the rousing explanation of all the many things you do. And I know we've heard about all these activities, but when we actually see it in the numbers, it's just a little overwhelming. And I know your volunteers are a big part of what you do out there. And I remember going to Walnut Grove a couple of years ago and seeing some young ladies out there schlepping with boots on and loving it, you know, and it's just, you know, how can you imagine that volunteers actually want to do something like that, but they do. And to be able to work with the horses, it's fantastic. But also it was reflecting also as Director Custworth was saying, the kind of the keeping up with our legacy. And I know when we, as a park district, took ownership of the facility about 4 years ago, I guess it's been now, that was part of the discussion is, you know, how will this integrate into what we offer as programs and how the staff would incorporate that as well as your programming. And I think you've far exceeded what we ever expected. And if only we could minimize having wait lists and have more campers out there, which I know is a big challenge, and we'll continue to work on that problem. It's a good problem to have. But as long as there's interest, we'll work that direction. But we appreciate your making it a possibility. with, all the staff you have out there, the facility improvements you continue to make, and reaching out to communities well beyond what we could ever imagine and kind of showcasing what we offer here. And I know you probably don't complain too much about the views that you get out there, so it's hard to beat. So I thank you for keeping that western fort protected for us. But thank you so much for the presentation. Any other comments that come up? All right, thank you again very much for being here this evening.
You're more than welcome. Thank you, guys.
Okay, with that, I'm going to move on to items from the public. I do have one public speaker card for this item. Dale Mena, please forgive me, and you can correct me when you get a chance on how to pronounce your last name.
It's pronounced Mina, but
Mina, okay.
I've heard it every way. So I don't take offense. I just have a quick question. Last time I was here was about a year ago, and just wondering if there's been any further developments on getting more pickleball courts.
This is really not an interactive time, but perhaps I know we do have, I just read in our packet, a little update on some of the regional efforts that have been going forth. Would you be able to just share a little bit about regionally the status of pickleball courts and what we're doing?
Well, the Conejo Rec and Park District is, kind of looking for the next maybe facility that could be similar to the one at Rancho. And we haven't yet found the ideal location, although there's a couple ideas in mind. Distance from homes is the primary consideration based on the noise of the sport. The good news, we were out first among all the agencies around here with pickleball courts and a complex, and some other folks are catching up. So Westlake, city of the right on our border, the Westlake Park and Y, they just opened 4 courts a month ago, or a couple months ago, and I think there's a private one opening in Newbury Park in a matter of months. But as for what we're actually doing, we're still in the identifying the specific location for the next,
Okay.
facility.
Yeah, Mark Radicloy was going to join me tonight here, but he's leading leagues tonight, and so maybe something might develop, with him and I in the next month or two. So just wanted to make comment on that and ask the question. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks for coming. And like I said, it is on our top 10 list. So depending on how things adjust, but it's definitely on the horizon. Thank you for coming this evening. Okay, that will take us to the approval of the agenda. And if someone wants to make a suggestion to change the agenda, if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve it.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second for that?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have an approved agenda. Next, we go to our consent calendar for items A and B, approval of the minutes and the warrants. Any comments, changes, modifications, or if not, a motion to approve?
I'd like to submit a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We have an approved consent calendar. We have no deferred items. That'll take us to new items. If the clerk could please announce our new item for us.
Okay, we have 8A, new item, modify Conejo Community Park Improvement Project.
Thank you very much. And I believe Mr. Mooney is going to be addressing that for us this evening.
Correct. Thank you, Chair Nichols, members of the board. As you're aware, we've had a multi-year process regarding Conejo Community Park and Center. We did an assessment back starting in 2019 with work continuing until 2021. The district made multiple actions. We did outreach, we did RFP for design services and environmental services, as well as we hired an architectural group from that RFP, and multiple steps of progress with plans, returned back to the public with outreach on that as well throughout that time period. And then on June 17th, 2021, the board adopted a resolution to approve the mitigated negative declaration for the Conejo Community Park and Center Improvements Project. Back in August of 2021, staff submitted planning applications to the city of Thousand Oaks, as they are the land use authority, and it prompted and required such action. And then this past November, so November 18th, 2024, the Planning Commission approved the project during their public meeting. As part of that process, with Planning Commission approval, projects can be appealed. Staff was made aware that there was a neighbor group that had concerns about the project, specifically about the scale and use levels of the proposed park improvements. And so a week later, after the approval, district staff and representatives and the concerned group met at the property. We as staff walked through the project improvements and facility use, as well as answered any questions that group had. And then ultimately on December 2nd, the group did submit an appeal for City Council, the Planning Commission appeal to City Council regarding the project. City staff made us aware of it. So we reviewed the appeal in detail and took a look at their concerns. And then we actually set up an additional meeting with the group after we assessed their specific concerns. However, we included in that meeting the assistant city manager, Tim Giles, as the kind of like third-party mediator between the district and the neighbor group. And so again, we reviewed the project. We addressed any concerns, discussed some concerns, and looked at possible project compromises, right? So taking a look at the whole project and some things of concern for the neighbors and everything. And so taking in consideration all those topics and items, we drafted a letter on after that December 16th meeting. And it's attached, the appeal is attached to the board report tonight, as well as the letter. And so we took in considerations, all of which of what the neighbor group addressed, and we put together this, shared it with that group. And then basically the intent of that was the compromise. So if if the board tonight would approve the modifications to the project, and so the intent would be that the group would rescind their appeal of the project based on the considerations of that letter as outlined in the report. And then just kind of in detail, we checked in with them after the holidays, late January. We did one more check-in, and then by February 4th, we received a signed copy of the letter that's attached to the board report tonight. And so specifically, the items that are addressed in that letter are related, as I mentioned, to park use, but also the park improvements. And so as far as park use, there was concern from the neighbors. We do have great community concerts there. We typically have 5 times a year. And so the concern with the group was that with the improvements and the expansion of the building, as well as some of the amenities on the property, that there would be a lot more of these bigger concerts, bigger events. And so there would be a condition, as outlined in the letter, would be that the current 5-time-per-year concerts would be maintained. However, if the district in the future and the community really would be interested in an additional or multiple events, that we would notice it at a board agenda meeting, and we would notify neighbors up to 1,000 feet away from the park site itself, which is similar process to like a development project that we would do on the park side of things. So if we were going to be doing any major work like that's kind of similar protocol. So that's where that 1,000-foot came up with. As well as any permit and use of these enhanced park facilities in the future. We would try to balance that carrying capacity of the park for those events to be held on site. So the intent and the concern by the neighbors was, if we're doing additional expansion of features and amenities of the building, that there'd be additional spillover into the neighborhood, creating traffic, concerns, parking concerns, and just like noise and congestion and inconvenience for the neighbors. And so that's something that we do now. We don't typically have any large events that are spilling over other than those 5 concerts. However, we wanted to outline that in this agreement letter, this condition letter, of saying that, hey, we will continue and meet the capacity to keep the cars parking on the property, obviously, except for those 5 concerts a year that we currently have. And that's something in general we do for every park project, big and small. We're neighbors to a lot of people throughout town, and we try to be good neighbors. Hence reaching out to these folks, hearing their concerns, kind of working through it. And so that would be the intent of, as Rochelle's folks come up with great ideas to do some new programming and everything, we're taking that in consideration as we kind of grow our program portfolio, if you will, of different activities and fun kind of routine camps or other events that are happening at the parks. So as far as use goes, those were the concerns, and that's how staff and the neighborhood group addressed those in the additional conditions, as well as going into the park improvements. There's 6, including the letter, and I'm looking at page 39 in the board packet. As part of the project, there were 2 additional picnic gazebos included. And so the intent would be to omit those due to the concerns by overdeveloping the park by the neighbors and taking away kind of the natural beauty and the aesthetic of the rolling hills and oak tree and sycamore tree canopy. And so staff agreed to omit those as part of this project, as this improvement project. So there would be no additional picnic and shade structure gazebos within the park. And then specifically the community center building, the building will remain as currently designed. We're not looking at proposing any changes on like the footprint or 2-story or location or anything like that. But specifically, the interest again from the neighbors was they didn't want to, it's a larger building. Staff still feels that it fits well with the topography of the site. But they wanted additional assurances that it would be more earth tones. It would blend in with the site, with the natural site of the park. And so item 2 under park improvements notes that, and similar to our process, but specifically for this project, that when we go to build the building or any of these improvements, we would be coming back to the board to approve the work, but then also from a budgeting standpoint and a contract standpoint, providing what phase, because we are looking to phase this project because we don't have the 20 million to build this project out today. And so the intent would be that we would still return to the board whenever we develop neighborhood meetings as part of development. We include an email group. So as we're making progress, just like this board item was emailed to everyone that's on my Conejo community, we would be doing the same thing. So every step of the way, we would continue to be in communication with the neighborhood group. And so if there was interest, they reach out to myself or staff and discuss projects and other items. And so this would be in that similar tone. And we would continue every phase. We would still be bringing the public involved, adding folks to the email list in time, over a course of years, these email lists grow in time with interested parties. And so we would continue to notify folks about the next step, what the development is, what action is the district taking at that park property. And then similar item 3, landscaping. The original intent of the project was to blend any of the features, but then also just additional assurances that the building will blend with the existing landscaping and any new improvements, so that it would fall in with the proper kind of building architecture style, and then just any other exterior improvements, with whether it's shrub planting or tree planting, to blend properly with existing and old. And again, that is always a goal of the district to really we have a great park system. However, we do need to make improvements to it. So we're not trying to necessarily recreate Conejo Community Park. We don't want to take away the good from the park, but we want to blend in what we need to provide for the community current and future. So that's the intent of that. There was, item 4 was concerns regarding the amphitheater style seats and steps. As part of the project, we had, out like the kind of the back porch, back patio of the community center. We had a series of tiered seating that went down with the topography. There was some concerns that that's a little bit too formal. That would be a little bit more kind of attractive nuisance. There would be a little bit too much that you're taking away from the grass and things like that. And so the compromise with the neighbors was we would remove the 2 lower tiers. We'd still keep seating because some of that seating was for accessibility seating. Because that's a concern that I've had conversations with members of the public at concerts and after concerts and then through this development process of it would be really nice to be able to have a little bit additional seating. And some folks that need either wheelchair assist or any other equipment assist to get around. This would provide an opportunity for some congregation, but we wouldn't be taking away the sloped grass area with amphitheater style seating. And then addressing the permanent stage, again, it's a balance of trying to incorporate new amenities as well as working with the existing trees and topography. The intent per the agreement of this, if the board does agree to this, would be to keep the stage as part of the project. We wouldn't be omitting it, and so it's as currently approved. But again, as we develop more working drawings and more detail stuff, that'll be provided to the board if you have questions and concerns about size, scale, look, feel, all that fun stuff, materials. But that's also dependent upon funding. As I mentioned, I'm trying to fix a bad parking lot that needs some resurfacing, an outdated restroom, provide some walkway enhancements now in the first phase. That was a part of our capital approvals last budget cycle. And so we've been going through the planning process with the city. And so that would be kind of like the first step of that. And the stage may be in later phases of that work when funding's available. And then just again, item 6 is kind of a general note about blending. So working with all the improvements, trying to incorporate into the park to complement the park's natural resources. So really just kind of a general sentiment of a couple of the more detailed stuff as we went through those 6 or those 5 prior items is the intent is to balance the new development with the existing success of the natural park features. So which again was always the intent of the project because we did hear that from the neighbors going through the outreach process and that was something that we tried to address as we worked through the design. And so with this change, if the board does approve this, similar to kind of conditions of approval that we received from Planning Commission, this memo as well as the letter would be included into this project record for the project. I will be sharing this with the city planning department as well. So that would be incorporated into their file and document as well. And then also just general note, we did include some background information in the report itself. So one of the links was for the project website that we've maintained for the past 5 years or so. Over 5 years now. For the project. And then we also had the link documents that was made available through the City Planning Commission. So just a lot of information. Like I mentioned, this report was emailed to the neighbors that were interested on the email group to be aware of it. So staff is going through kind of our procedural process to notify those that are interested. And then just kind of as a clarification as far as for CEQA, since the proposed modifications don't expand the project, we're kind of narrowing or omitting, taking things away from the project. It's limiting those features in use, so the modifications would still be compliant with all the board action that was taken for the project that was adopted with the mitigated negative declaration. So again, just trying to clarify, it's not undoing any prior approvals that the board has done from an environmental sense. It's just kind of further limiting what development is, and again, in concert and in communication with our neighbor group. So With that, I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Director Mooney, for that very extensive and necessary explanation. Just as a matter of process here, I do have a number of speaker cards, so what I'd like to do is, if the board has any specific questions for Mr. Mooney on his presentation or what's in a report, to address those now. Then we'll hear from the public, and then we can discuss amongst ourselves, what the pros and cons are of what we heard here, if that sounds okay. So any questions of the presentation, anything specific you want to address? I'm not trying to keep you from asking, but just want to get a little process here. Yes, Director Roscoe.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a quick question about the gazebos. So we would be eliminating all shaded structure areas altogether, or would we be keeping just the one that we currently have and improving that particular one?
Yeah, sorry. For clarification, it would be any new gazebos. So
Any
there
new
was two gazebos that were proposed as part of the work. So the existing gazebo at I believe it's a two structure actually, at the playground, as well as the smaller wisteria. Those are to remain, as well as out in the area on the west side. That shaded gazebo would remain. So anything in the park, we're not taking away. It's just any future improvement.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Oh, yes, Director Huffer.
Not so much a question, just a comment. I do appreciate all the time and effort that staff has put into this, and certainly I think it's a good example of all the various projects we've done for decades in the community, that we make every effort to listen to what the community is saying. Sometimes we think we hear one thing and actually something else was being said, and we try to listen to that as well. So in looking through the list of compromises that we're talking about in this letter, I think, I would have liked a few more gazebos, but I think people really enjoy having shady space for picnics, but I can certainly understand not wanting to put more structures out there than is absolutely necessary. But some of the suggested changes, I certainly would agree with the idea that we're going to keep the basic footprint and size for the community center building. I think is critical, because the current design of the building is certainly less than efficient, and given the fact that Conejo Community Park is the closest of our major parks and major centers, closest to where a lot of the new housing developments are going in the community. Conejo Community Park and Conejo Community Center are certainly going to be used by residents, very local, and residents who will be moving into some of the new areas. So again, I appreciate working with the community members and listening to the community members and coming up with these compromises.
Thank you, Director Huffer. Anything else before I get to our public? Okay, then I'm going to start with I've got four individuals. I'm going to start with the order that I received these. So first is Steve Davis. Steve? Oh, there you are. If you wouldn't mind going up to the podium, and if you wouldn't mind, try to stay within 3 minutes, but we don't have any shepherd's hooks to pull you off, so.
Yeah.
Excuse me just a minute. Mark, is our microphone on over there?
Okay, how's that?
There we go. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Steve Davis. I'm speaking on behalf of the Conejo Valley Botanic Garden as a member of their board of directors, and we're here to formally support the revised proposal. On a personal note, I've lived and worked in Thousand Oaks for over 40 years, and for most of those 40 years, I've been enjoying the Conejo Community Park, and I've been watching its relationship to the Botanic Garden, and certainly it's due for a new building, and I think a refresh of the landscape. I'm certainly very happy with the planning. I commend the staff. and the consultants for their thorough outreach and their attention to details on the environmental review. A few specifics, I think I'm particularly pleased to see that there's going to be a new restroom and a maintenance office. It's just a reminder of the Conejo Valley Recreation, I think the Conejo Valley Botanic Garden. We manage the 33 acres immediately adjacent to on the west end of the Conejo Community Park. And so we consider ourselves stakeholders. Also, I think the improvement of the trail system going into Tarantula Hill will also enhance the experience for our garden visitors. Finally, I would like to invite, I'm very happy to see the emphasis on native plants and preserving the natural terrain. As you get into the construction documents, I would invite the consultant to come and visit us. I'd personally give them a tour of our botanic garden so they can see in the real world what is working and not working. We've had many years of dealing with those issues. So I look forward to those improvements, and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Any
Was I under
questions
3
for
minutes?
Mr. Davis? All right, thank you. Were you volunteering to help take care of all the gardens around the park too? Oh. Oh, okay, all right. Thank you very much. Okay, next is Susan, and you're gonna have to help me with your last name. Is it Lasky? Okay, all right, thank you. Please come in. Good to see you again. Welcome back. Like I said, if you could to 3 minutes, but like I said, we're not gonna pull you away. But thank
Okay.
you.
Well, actually, I'm part of the neighbor group that was in negotiation with everyone on the park, and we do appreciate them taking the time to work with us and hear us. I guess obviously I support the modifications to the project. Just for a little background, part of the reason why we filed this appeal is because number one, we care so much about our park. This has been my park since I was 10 years old. I grew up in that neighborhood and then lived in other areas of Thousand Oaks and have rebounded back to my childhood home. And it's my park. Again, it's always been my park. My parents live there. It's just always been my park. And I just feel very lucky to have it. It is, as I've told many of you who I've met before, I truly feel it's the most beautiful park in the park district that you guys have. And the thought for us with all these additional man-made structures was that it was just taking away from that natural beauty. So many people come to that park specifically to take their prom pictures or do proposals because there's just so much natural beauty with those oak trees and those sycamores. So we're trying to preserve that. And another point we felt was important was that unlike almost every other park that I'm aware of in the district, our park is literally tucked inside of a neighborhood. It is not on a main street like pretty much almost every other park is. So our neighborhood, we welcome the concerts in the park. We love it. It's fun for everybody and we're fine with the traffic. But what we're not fine with is number one, the park being overrun if it's overused, but also the additional traffic and chaos that could come to the neighborhood because it is on, little neighborhood streets. It's not on Thousand Oaks Boulevard or Jan's Road or off Wendy or Borchard. So those were the concerns. It wasn't we want to keep people away from the park. We want to share our park. It's beautiful. You should come and see it. But these were kind of the underlying reasons why we filed the appeal. As you know, there's other reasons, but I just wanted to point that out. That is because it is a small neighborhood park that the neighborhoods will be impacted by traffic if there is overuse of the facilities. But other than that, I just appreciate again, Jim, Andrew, all of you for working with us, and hopefully we can, here goes my pen, come to, make this work for everyone. And the main thing is protect the park and let it continue to be the naturally beautiful place that it is. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Susan. Any questions for Susan before we let her go? All right. All right. Thank you for being here this evening. Okay, next I have Diane McKay. Diane, you could again Got 3 minutes, but we're not going to take you away.
Don't give me a mic without a limit. Um, I'm Diane McKay, and I'm here specifically, two things. I lived in Thousand Oaks, and I always say about 100,000 people ago. I also grew up here, and I also consider Dover and Hendricks my park, though I lived in Lynn Ranch. I'm also here representing first the Greater Conejo Valley Chamber of Commerce. Our board on January 14th did vote on this item. We thought it was important as we look at businesses and how the community is expanding and the home values and we voted to fully support the Park District in their endeavors in this. I did at that time because I was aware that there may be some compromises, explain what they were, and the vote was still unanimous to support however you chose to go forward with this park. We all felt that the building does need to be replaced and that is important for the entire community that uses that park and especially the accessibility piece. So wanted to put that out there. It was a formal vote of the chamber and I am the immediate past chair. And then for myself, having lived here, it is a beautiful park. I had worked with the district on community outreach, so I was at the meetings and was part of the compromise discussions. And I don't think it takes away from what needs to be done with this new building. I hope it doesn't take away from accessibility. I'm sure we'll address that at the time by removing the extra layers. I hope that there's enough that people in wheelchairs and strollers and walkers can still enjoy the concerts and watching their kids play in the park. I know I used to watch my kids, they did the LARPing, I used to call it stick beating. I know that's not what I'm supposed to call it, but running all over the park, and I'm sure they would have enjoyed performing for us on this stage. So looking forward to all that for maybe my grandkids. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Diane. Any questions for Diane? All right, thank you for being here this evening. Okay, and last one is Stacy Hibbard. Stacy?
Thank you for the opportunity to let me speak tonight. And I'm here representing Conejo Valley Little League and myself and my family. I think one of the things that I've heard from the others here is very similar theme of I was born and raised in Southern California, moved to Thousand Oaks in the early 70s, left for several years and ended up coming back with 3 children and a family to raise them in this area. I have 3 boys who started in Conejo Valley Little League when we moved here in 2014. And my youngest one is continuing to play and plays at Dover and Hendricks Park or Conejo Community. So when I first joined and got involved with Conejo Valley Little League, I became their field director and I was a volunteer on the board. I was with the board for 6 years as a field director, and then these past 2 years took over as league president. And this year remained on the board in special projects and for Fior, for Waverly, and for Conejo Community. And one of the things that's really important for us and we appreciate is the enhancements that are going to be done to the park. I grew up at that park. I know exactly how everybody feels about it. My kids have been, going there since we moved back. And this year, my youngest boy is playing his first year at Dover. So it's fun for him to be there to see the enhancements that are going to be done in regards to the restrooms, the surface lot repaving, and then just the park as a whole. The league is very excited that there's an opportunity to do some enhancements to the park. And I'm going to be heading to our board meeting right after this and let them know, that it came from here and there's some really great things that are going to be happening at that park. So I appreciate letting me speak tonight and I'll look forward to getting these enhancements done at the park. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't leave yet because I've got a question, but I just want to make sure that any other directors have any questions. Yes, Director Huffer.
Not a question, but just a comment. I have a very special place in my heart for anybody who's a volunteer for youth sports. So thank you for what you have been doing and continue to do. And even once your boys are grown and gone, hopefully you continue in your volunteer work. So thank you.
Absolutely. You're very welcome.
Anybody else? Question? Stacy, I have a question. I know part of the proposal is to do some improvements at the ball field,
Mhm.
and which would enable some additional activities. Could you maybe explain what that is and what the improvements are and how it benefits Conejo Valley Little League?
Sure. My understanding is that moving of the fence line back a little bit will allow for us to expand a division that Conejo Valley Little League hasn't had an opportunity to use, which is an intermediate division. So the majors division right now, which is the team that Conejo Valley in 2004 went to the Little League World Series and ultimately lost, but made it all the way there. Once you leave majors for kids to continue to play Little League until they get into high school at age 13 and 14 is an intermediate / junior. And one of the big challenges that Little League has competing with travel kids is that the jump from majors to juniors, it's significant. It's 60 feet to 90 feet base running, and it's 46 pitching to 60 feet. And we have seen over the years, we lose a lot of players there. So trying to find an intermediate and get an intermediate division started where it's a 60 to 70 foot and then a 46 to 50 foot pitching. Hopefully we'll be able to keep more kids coming back to play, but that's one of the big enhancements there is being able to use that field with moving the fence line out potentially for intermediate.
And if my understanding is correct, that's kind of like the age group where they're getting into high school ball. And that also kind of pulls some away, so it really starts to separate the talent pool, so to speak. So this kind of gives them an outlet. Is that correct?
It does, yeah. At 14, generally you'll start to see kids really focusing on getting into high school baseball. So if we're able to keep kids that maybe don't make a high school team, it gives them a place and an outlet to continue to play for several years if they're not able to play high school ball.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, appreciate the support.
Yeah.
I did have a conversation with your successor, and I know there's a good group coming
Yeah.
up along there, so I look forward to continued success. But again, as Director Harper said, thank you for your commitment. And well, I know it's certainly helps with your own family, but it helps the broader community too. So thank you.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you again for your time.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, that concludes our comments. Was there anyone else who wanted to speak and didn't put a card in on this particular item? Okay, do we have anybody online that wanted to speak on this by chance? Okay. All right, so then I will return back to the board then. We've heard from the staff, we've heard from the public. Comments, questions, discussion? Yes, Director Cusworth.
Okay, I'm all choked up from listening to you, and I hope I'm going to be okay. I moved into Conejo 45 years ago. My house is close enough that we can hear the concerts in the park. My kids grew up in that park. We can walk to that park. That park means so much to me. And my grandkids are now in the park, and they're coming to the concerts in the park. My kids took lessons in that building. I square dance in that building on Thursday nights. We wish we had a bit, a more modern space, but I absolutely love it. I volunteer at the Botanic Garden. I love the Botanic Garden. They do need a new bathroom over there. So I really appreciate all of the love that all of you are bringing for this park. And I do want to say, Susan, I really understand your feelings for the park. I have those same feelings. And yes, a lot of our major parks are on busy streets, but the majority of our parks are in neighborhoods. And I understand that maybe you haven't been to a lot of our other parks because when I was raising my kids, we kind of went to Conejo Community all the time. It was there in our neighborhood. We get very protective of our neighborhood parks. We believe in them. We love them. But most of our parks are meant to be in the community, walkable. They're there for the residents. They're there for the people. Those are usually the people that are using these parks, are residents in the neighborhood. And I'm sure we could be talking about any park and we would have residents in that neighborhood talking about how much that park means to them, which is one of the greatest things that we have in Thousand Oaks is our parks and open space. I was saying to Director Roscoe, when I was looking at some things, I go, being a part of this organization, even though I don't do all of the hard work, makes me feel like a better person. just being a part of CRPD. So I really appreciate all of your comments. And to comment about one thing with landscaping, I have found that our parks probably have the nicest landscaping of any parks that I've been to. And I hate to say this, this is an embarrassment, but since I have been on CRPD, when we go on vacation, I take a lot of pictures of parks. We're always going to the parks. I take pictures of park amenities. I looked at our last family reunion and I had more pictures of the parks than I did of my grandchildren. Now that's terrible, but I look at our landscaping and I have a lot of respect for Mr. Mooney's landscaping ability. I have had people call me asking me for different plants that are in our parks, wanting to know. And with with us going a lot to drought tolerant, I think that a lot of that has beautified our parks. So I have complete trust that the landscaping at that park will be absolutely beautiful and it will really enhance the park. It will take nothing away from the park. So thank you again for coming. Thank you for your support. And I hope this is going to be another wonderful improvement to our community.
Yes, Director Orozco.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I first want to say thank you so much to Andrew and to staff for your guys' continued work on just making sure that we are doing our due diligence and actively listening to the concerns of the community. And then secondly, I'd like to just thank all of you for coming out tonight in support of this project. This project in particular is so exciting. And what makes it so exciting is that we do have that direct relationship with you all, and you guys coming forward with those concerns and with those improvements and those compromises, that's what makes it so special and so wonderful, because we feel so passionate about these parks. And Conejo Community Park, I know I too, Susan, believe that it is one of the most beautiful parks. It is magical, especially at golden hour. It is a stunning park, and so I share the sentiments as my fellow director mentioned about the want and the need to preserve and to make sure that we're doing good by our parks and by our residents. So just looking forward to seeing this come to fruition and working alongside all of our residents to make sure that we're moving in a direction that everybody can be proud of. So thank you.
Thank you very much. To my left here, who'd like, okay, Director Buss.
I just want to say thank you to staff for all that you have been doing and working on this and the accommodations. I appreciate it. And especially to the people living in the neighborhood. I had my second child there on Somerset and walked to that park every day with my newborn and my 3-year-old. So I totally know. I tried to walk there one time from Lynn Ranch and I never walked there again. I drove. So I do agree too. It is the most beautiful park in this area. I won't tell other houses that I sell that, but it is. It's like a little hidden gem that you kind of get to know once you take a class there and you're like, oh, where's this? Or you go to the concert in the park and you're like, wow, this is amazing. So I think it's great that you guys were so invested and had the buy-in and had the discussion because it is a collaboration between all of us as we all live here. So I just want to say thank you to all parties involved. I appreciate it. Bye.
Thank you. Director Huffer?
Yeah, just a couple additional comments. It is undoubtedly one of the most beautiful parks in the community. I've been in the community for more than 40 years. I have a lot of friends in the community, and one of the speakers mentioned talking about Dover and Hendricks Park, and I'll tell people, oh, you should go to Conejo Community Park, and they say, what? Where's that? I said, oh, Dover and Hendricks. Oh, of course, go there all the time for the concerts. But whether it's for the concerts, some of the special programs that the Park District puts on there for some of the holidays, where they have the little kids following trails up for the various events, the Botanic Gardens. How much that has grown over the last 30 some years. When my kids were young, they planted a couple of trees up there, which I can't find any longer because there's so much else that's been planted up there. But the park is just an absolute jewel for current residents, for past residents, and certainly for future residents as well. And the love that you folks have for the park, the patience that you have, because I'll have to admit, I would be a little hesitant if I had 1,000 cars parking in my neighborhood to come listen to a concert. But they are fun concerts, and I certainly understand the concerns and wanting to limit the number of concerts. And as we said, you know, keeping them to our current 5 is certainly the plans that we have. Very popular, not just for our community, but for our neighbors as well. A lot of times I'll have friends from Simi, Moore Park, who will join me at the concerts because it's such a great place. And, you know, there are other locations to have concerts, but to be able to throw a blanket or a chair on the grass and enjoy them that way is just absolutely spectacular. So, again, thank you for your love and support of the, I still refer to it as Dover and Hendricks Park. So thank you.
A true local. Thank you all. I do have some comments and some questions. First, I just want to thank Susan for your courage to and willingness to invest financially out of your own pocket or whoever collected the funds to make this happen, because you know it's kind of a challenge sometimes to think, okay, do I really feel that strongly about it that I'm willing to potentially lose $1,000, $2,000? So it makes a difference. You know, I think we're all in that position where it's just like, well, if it were free, I'd complain, but if I have to pay for it, nah, it's okay. So thank you for doing that. You know, we have started this outreach many, many years ago and have multiple meetings. And, you know, a little bit surprising sometimes we hear, well, wait a minute, we've had so much outreach. How can there possibly be something that we haven't discussed? But thankfully, we're in no hurry. We don't have any grants that we're waiting on. We don't have any funding that's waiting. So it's just like, okay, if we can make the project better, let's hear it out. And as had been mentioned before, we have permanent neighbors. You know, it's not like we're a developer and we develop a project and then we leave and go to another community to develop another project. No, if we're developing a project, we stay there and we're lifelong neighbors. So we got to get along with our neighbors. So thank you for doing that. And I know in part of these discussions somewhere along, and I don't know if it was with Tom here or others, that mentioned that Conejo Community Park is a community park masquerading as a neighborhood park. And that's really what it is, because I think even with Triumpho Park, which is kind of in a neighborhood, you know, Triumpho is a little bit busier street, you know, a little bit easier to get in and out, but you know, not so much Conejo Community Park. And yes, I have friends that do photography and they love to go to that park as well. So a lot of that goes along with that. I do have a few questions. With the reference to parking, and I know there's some reference to the available on-site parking. Mr. Mooney, do you remember offhand what the difference in parking stalls will be compared to what we have currently to what will be there upon completion of the total build out of the project?
So if I remember correctly, we basically have no net change. We are providing additional ADA accessible parking and better locations with the layout of the new building. But overall, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, that we don't have any increase or significant decrease in the amount of parking spaces. So, but
Okay. Thank you. That's right, because I didn't remember if there's any significant change with that. Okay. And then regarding the references to, you know, future open public meetings, receiving community input. I know we have various types of projects that we do with park improvements. Some of them are kind of repetitive, where we do playground refurbishments, you know, those types of things that happen time and again. And then we have situations like this where it's a major project. Is there a certain threshold where, you know, like I know we always do some type of community outreach, but we actually have a meeting that's held to the board to make a decision? You know, is there a certain threshold that you use to determine when that happens?
So typically, you know, it obviously varies project to project. You know, if we are doing something significant and it's dollar value, right? So, you know, we only have X amount of spending authority via the general manager. But as far as from a capital standpoint, I might be looking around and looking at projects. However, if I need to make action and spend money on things, we would be taking that to the board, right? So that would be through our budget process and our 10-year CIP. As far as the threshold to go out and get outreach, correct? That's what you're asking as well. Typically, it is a significant change or development on a property that we would. And then for example, 6, 7 years ago, Thousand Oaks Community Park, staff was looking at the DG walking path. And it was hey, we want to probably convert this to a different surface. When it does rain, we have some hazards, we got to fix it, all that type of stuff. And because it was a significant change on the property and we knew that rec had folks using it, high school, we did outreach for something like that. And that's, could be $100,000, say, back then. And so there isn't necessarily like a dollar threshold of when we do outreach. It's more about the impact to it. So if there's a lot of existing use on a property or a significant change to how the park would be used, right? And so it's definitely one of those, we have to kind of case by case take it if we do it, but it's typically when we're kind of making a left or right turn from what's there. But like for instance, like Dos Vientos Community Park Playground, we didn't do any outreach because we were basically putting the playground in the same location. We were providing better accessibility and meeting the missions of the district. However, I did take that to the board for approval of construction contract. We took it to the board for grant as well as to make it a project in the upcoming budget, right? So there's definitely thresholds there, which obviously that's a notice public meeting and it's us discussing it in the boardroom. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Just trying to get some of the things clarified. Then under item 5 regarding the permanent stage, you mentioned that, well, the letter, I shouldn't say you, the letter refers to the construction of the stage is dependent upon funding. Isn't really the community center and all future phases reliant on funding? Because we don't have any funding right now. This is going to be multiple years into the future until we get funding.
For the stage, yes, we do have funding currently in the current, 2 years ago when we did the budget, we do have phase 1 funding
Correct.
for the west parking lot and the restroom and things. We do have capital set aside for that. But yeah, so specifically the stage as funding is available, we would be taking that to the board. So.
And the community center as well, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, and literally every phase, I would be coming to the board, whether it's at budget time or if it's like mid-cycle, hey, we got a grant where we want to make some progress on this, that type of thing. So it would be taking it for board action.
Okay. And there's just also another clarification regarding the gazebos. The last sentence says that both of them would be omitted as part of this project. But then in your statements, you were talking about the future. I'm thinking that maybe 10, 20 years from now, if the population decides, hey, we would like one more gazebo somewhere, would that be a possibility? I mean, I don't think we're saying that we would never, ever build another gazebo, but just not in the foreseeable future with this project, which probably is going to be maybe 5 to 7 years at least, I imagine.
Correct. Yeah. So with the current proposal, just like any park, it evolves. No park's finished. The day we open a brand new park, it's still changing in time. So yeah, for this proposal, this project, it would not include the shade structures as you mentioned. However, we could still address that in the future, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, for other opportunities, just like other properties that we have done for other amenities.
Yeah, because I can imagine, whenever this is completed, 20 years after that, we're going to be needing to do some refurbishments again. So, okay, thank you. And then regarding the amphitheater style seats, that back porch or patio you were referring to, what would be that distance from the facade to the edge with the concrete that you would expect at this point?
So from the overhang or the face of the building?
Well, I was just say the usable patio. So
it could be a range of, there's probably at least 10 to 15 feet overhang and then an additional 20 to 30 of uncovered back patio. Okay. So 45 to 50-ish.
Okay.
Something like that in that range.
So still be a a programming usable space then.
Correct. Yeah, it would be more significant than how it is at the front door now. So that was the intent of, hey, this does work, but we do have some circulation congestion when we do have certain events and activities.
Okay,
so.
all right. And then as far as the park use with summer concerts, I think this is I was just thinking about something that we've mentioned is I think all we've discussed, it was always the intent that perhaps, but it wasn't documented as far as what the intent was. And so I'm glad we're going through this to kind of finalize this and say, yeah, this is our intent. So I'm glad that we're saying, okay, 5 per year is enough concerts, because I've often thought about that too. All these poor people, we should offer them free admission to the concerts, but they already have that. But with that, it's just like, what I think we should, say, no more than 5, and then go through the same process that we do with our like large events with the Conejo Creek North Park, where we've limited that kind of constraint. I think we should use that same process for this, and actually kind of make it a community-wide type of a policy, so to speak. But when it says any proposal for a large concert, is there like a number fixed to that that we have in mind? What's large?
So typically, Rochelle's folks can permit anything up to 1,000. Large would be anything exceeding 1,000. As everyone knows in the room, concerts vary, right? Certain years you might have 1,500 on a non-holiday. A holiday you might have 5,000 to 6,000 on on a nice weather day on 4th of July or Memorial Day. So it is a range, but typically it's anything over 1,000 is how we operate. What would be considered large that we would bring to the board, just like we do at the Conejo Creek Complex. So.
Okay. And I'm not sure who can answer this question, but I know we have a process that Director Buss is very familiar with, as well as Director Huffer's others, as far as what it takes to host a large event at a park. But these concerts are hosted by the park district. So do we follow our own rules in hosting these concerts? In other words, if we were being approached by an applicant that said, I want to host a 5,000 seat concert at Dover Hendricks Park, Conejo Community Park, would they be going through this? Would we be going the same processes that they would?
I believe the short answer is no, because we don't require, we have our insurance. We're not collecting insurance. We're not filling out an application. We're not, doing that kind of thing. But for example, yes, if we get a vendor, a food vendor, we're asking them to do the same thing that like Marissa should be asking her vendors to do. So there are certain rules that, yes, we do follow exactly the same rules, but there's other things because it's our event, we don't have to do. So we hire security. We follow the rules of hiring an EMS because it's over a certain amount of numbers, which somebody else would have to follow also. So state, county guidelines, we follow those, but the internal application process and stuff like that, we don't fill that out.
Okay, yeah.
We put it in our reservation system, but we don't
Okay.
fill out an application.
Okay, all right. Because I was just thinking of, if I were expecting, someone to fill out an application, I would just say, okay, show me your security plan, show me your traffic plan, show me your parking plan, where are the passengers loading or unloading. And I know we have a lot of challenges out there. So I think we should refine that process for concerts, to have an act, and if that means getting some traffic control out there, whatever it is, to kind of, work with our neighbors as best as we can to improve that. And I know we've been trying to make some efforts in that regard, but I think we need to refine that, much like we would expect from somebody at Conejo Creek North. So that's my suggestion, and I know, you folks are more than capable of handling that. And it's not directly tied to what we're doing here, but I just wanted to mention that as we go through that, because I know we have a lot of history at this park with doing good concerts, and I just want to make sure that we can finesse that as best possible to make sure that it doesn't kind of go astray. Those were my questions and comments. Anything else from the board? And if not, we do have a staff recommendation here, if someone would want to propose. Yes, Director Huffer?
I would like to move that we approve staff recommendation to modify the Conejo Community Park Improvement Project for terms of the January 29, 2025 letter attached and as signed by Susan on February 4th.
Thank you. Do we have a second for that?
I'll second that.
Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Again, thank you, Susan, and your team for your valid input. Okay, we will move on to, and thank you for everybody else coming out tonight, by the way. I hope you enjoyed the entertainment. All right. You never know what special presentations we're going to have, so. Okay, let's see, we go on to 9B. If the clerk would announce that item for us, please.
Approve resolution number 022025-A, authorizing the submittal of the Older Americans Act grant application to Ventura County Human Services Agency, Area Agency on Aging for project year July 1, 2025 to June 30, 2026.
Thank you very much. And I believe Director Callis, this is your item for our presentation.
Yep, thank you, Chair Nichols, members of the board. So I was gonna read it, but Aline already read it. So anyhow, staff is looking for approval. This is the same thing that pretty much comes to you guys every year. Sometimes there's been years where we thought we didn't have to do it, and then at the last minute we were trying to do it. So this is basically just an approval so that we can fill out the application for the grant. So the district assumed responsibility for the senior nutrition program in 2010 from the city of Thousand Oaks. It is our lunch program. It's served Monday through Friday, as you guys are very familiar with. We've been seeing about an average of 75 folks, sometimes more, actually coming in for lunch. It's extremely important for our community. This grant, we received this grant from VC AAA. It covers most of the operating costs. You guys will see that budget later on in a couple months, but we are expecting it to be about $132,000 this year. Again, this is just the approval so that when we find out if we have to fill out a grant, we can fill out the grant and we have the board's approval. They ask that the board know that we're doing this and that you're behind it. So that is what we are looking for if you so oblige.
Thank you very much. We have any board members have questions for staff? Oh, Director Buss.
So do you know if the funding is available for this grant?
So as I mentioned, I think last time we met, we have received a letter, just as all other, a lot of other local organizations have, that said the fundings could change. We have not heard anything yet. The program itself seems to have a lot of movement and changing that's going on through HSA and VC AAA. They're changing who oversees it. They're changing some different things. So Julie is amazing and is constantly juggling whatever they're asking for and trying to figure it out. So, and she's been able to stay on top of it and keep really good relationships. So we have not heard that the funding is going to change at this time, but I think there's other organizations and us that are kind of just like, we've been kind of put on notice that something might change.
Yeah, I just had heard from senior concerns about
Mhm.
the Meals on Wheels. They're very concerned, so that's why I was curious on that. Thank you.
And theirs is, I think, a much larger amount of money than our 130. So.
Director Huffer?
Yeah, not directly related to this request for the grant, but I believe somewhere in the last year or so that the program has gotten a new chef, different chef than we had before. And I have gotten feedback from a number of people who regularly enjoy the lunches there, and they're enjoying them even much more than they did a year or so ago. So
That's what I've heard also, that he's very personable and doing a great job. It's amazing because you're not only a chef, but you're also working with volunteers. You don't really have staff, so you've got to have that personality to be able to work with and keep people happy that are volunteering their time. So, and he's doing a great job.
Any other directors have questions or comments? I have one question. How's, who sets the time 11:30 to 12:30? I mean, I would normally think maybe 11 to, I mean, 12 to 1 or 11:30 to 1. It just seems like 12:30 seems like it cuts a little short of the typical lunch hour. So just a
I
question.
believe it's actually set by the grant.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting.
So there's a nutritionist, there's certain foods we have to meet, we meet with dietitians, and the time of the program and how many
Okay.
we serve is, I believe, all in the grant.
Interesting. Okay.
Well,
All
come
right.
on, because also these are seniors and they're,
That's what I was gonna
they
say.
have dinner like
Come
at
on.
4:30 or 5, so they need to have an early
Yeah.
lunch, so.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, and it's amazing in that cafe, you guys, 75 people go in and out because remember, this is a congregate lunch. They're supposed to sit and eat and chat with each other and socialize and have that interaction. And so the dining room, I think, fits about 50.
Hmm.
So people they're in and out with their lunch in half an hour.
Wow. Okay. All right. I mean, I have been there and I know it's a kind of a hopping in place over there. So very good. Okay. We do have a recommendation regarding a resolution here. If we have anyone care to make a motion. Yes, Director Cussworth.
So I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 22025A, authorizing submittal of the Older Americans Act grant application, and that it be read in title only and all future readings be waived.
Thank you. Do we have a second for that?
I'll second it.
Director Buss. Thank you very much. And do we have anybody who's willing to read the resolution? Oh, Madam Clerk, if you would, please.
Resolution 022025-A, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Conejo Recreation and Park District authorizing the submittal of the Older Americans Act grant application to Ventura County Human Services Agency, Area Agency on Aging for project year July 1, 2025 to June 30, 2026.
Thank you very much. All right, take a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that gets approved. Thank you very much. All right, next we have item 9A, item for discussion. And this is, let's see, regarding our 5-year strategic plan. I believe our general manager is going to head us off on this one.
Yes, thank you, Chair Nichols and members of the board. We're trying to not, use so much paper. So the very short memo is referencing what's been on our website for the last year and a half is our 5-year strategic plan, 2024 to 2028. And so that's the document that we're kind of referring to. And because it is only 18 months old of a 5-month plan, staff doesn't really have any proposed updates or changes to this 5-year plan. But we actually are committed to making sure we all look at it and touch it and remind ourselves what's in it every year, just so that we kind of keep it fresh and make sure that there isn't any little minor course corrections or maybe major course corrections. So if you'll recall, a lot of times when we get really into the weeds of changing this, we'll do like a board retreat, have a different sort of meeting format, sometimes, go to a different venue to kind of just get our creative juices flowing a little different. But because this is only the first year since we, just adopted it, I thought we'd start the discussion here tonight, kind of fit into the agenda planning schedule based on how all the other agenda items are out there too. So maybe just kick off a conversation and see if we do need an actual board retreat. If there aren't any real major changes to the strategic plan itself, then I'd say we probably don't need such a meeting. But again, this is a discussion item, totally open-ended. You guys are gonna, decide what it is we want to focus on. So the 5-year plan is obviously a bit longer of a horizon. It's what are we going to kind of keep working toward. There aren't very specific tasks or goals in here. It's generally where are we headed? What are our big elements and directions that we're headed. So that's the strategic plan. And if the board wants, I can go through the different chapters of it and kind of cover it. Otherwise, I'll kind of leave that for a moment and now talk a little bit more about the more sort of task-oriented, goal-oriented document that the board adopts. And about 1 year ago, we adopted our 2024 goals and objectives. And we just, I think it was at the last meeting or meeting before, we handed out the, fourth quarter update of those goals and objectives. So all I did was reprint that and include it in the packet. So that is on page 48 of your packet here tonight. And there's 15 different goals and objectives. They're lettered rather than numbered because we intentionally didn't try to prioritize them as most important or anything like that. They're just kind of 15 different things we've been working on. So we can kind of go down how we did or are doing, because a lot of, many of them are not totally complete, but we can kind of cover these goals. And then the idea there would be, all right, what do we need to maybe add to the list for 2025? We kind of know what we're working on from the, say, the capital improvement project list when it comes to capital construction. I think Rochelle shared this with everybody tonight, or did everyone get this? So this is like Rochelle's, recreation and community service division, some of the stuff that they're focusing on as a staff team tonight. That's not necessarily board, directed, but just so you know what she's already kind of focusing on. And then, yeah, so this is our brainstorming idea, just no real, not a ton of guardrails. It just kind of, what do you guys think we should be working on? I will do, this is like not totally blue sky. Like blue sky thinking is really good at times, and like imagine a world if, we had unlimited funds and could do whatever we want. That's actually valuable to do at some point, but I'm going to give you some concerns I have going forward for this year that are going to materialize. This is a labor negotiation year, so we will have an MOU that is up and we have to negotiate. On the capital construction side, events outside our control, which is generally the case with capital, we're seeing a variety of little pieces all starting to kind of conspire together to make capital way more expensive, or at least I'm forecasting that'll be the case too. But like, we've had a few years of decent inflation, right? And when we do a 10-year plan, we picked 2 years ago what we thought capital might cost, in year 4, year 5, which are now going to be, the next years 2 and 3. And as we think about capital, so I think things are going to cost more than we thought they would, because of the inflation. Now there's other things affecting prices like tariffs, construction employment with the Altadena and Palisades fires. Like, that's who we hire, our contractors that are in the coming year going to be extremely busy. Like right now, today, probably not so much, but once we actually have projects and they're ready to go out the gate, I suspect there's going to be lots of people doing lots of work. And so what we have found over the years is when construction people are really busy, they'll look at we're relatively small potatoes for public works construction. So they'll see like a bid, noticing, bids for a project that we expect might cost us $1 million, for example. Well, a really busy contractor will say, like, I don't have time to even like pay attention to that. Tell them we'll do it for, pick a number, 2 million, and that's like literally like really, because they're just so busy, they don't necessarily need the work, but they might throw a number out there just to see if we'll bite. So that's out there, and plus we're in the LA Olympic environment too. So we're in that hyper local, all the projects associated with Olympics. So those are the things that I think in the next couple years, as we're getting ready to develop our capital budget, we're gonna see affecting price of construction. So again, blue sky is awesome, and if we could develop the Hurricane Harbor Water Park somewhere in here, maybe that might be an aspirational goal someday in the future, but we're not loaded when it comes to stuff. So I guess with that, I'm saying let's temper maybe some of the wish capital things, but that does not mean we can't be very robustly working on planning and, you know, kind of some of those efforts to get ready for the next time that construction looks really an optimum time to get going on stuff. So I don't, that's a little bit of a wet blanket start to this, because we have some capital money, we have some projects to do, but just kind of sharing that. So with that, I guess I'm going to kick it off to you, Chair, and or do you want me to go through each of these, see how we're doing, and then maybe I guess I could
Yes,
answer a question or go through them, or
well, I think just some of these on your 2024 goals and objectives, several that you have, you know, pending or like ongoing, kind of project related, you know, not so much like the, you know, the first one, 8, engage, train, and support CRPD staff ongoing. So it's like, okay, we kind of know what that is.
right.
But when you have like, you know, update the CRPD master plan, you know, pending, maybe just like a quick,
Sure.
what's the current
Perfect.
status, what's next, that type of thing.
Let me go down this. And so for those of you all watching at home, I'm looking at, you know, our agenda packet. So we just have basically a table with some goals and the status of some of them tied to the strategic plan. So these goals also sort of have a foundation or root in this document. So there's a reason we're doing some of these things. But yeah, the training and supporting CRPD staff, that was just a special emphasis thing that we wanted to really do. We were going through a lot of staff changes and turnovers. I think we had, I think, a third of our staff were here less than 2 years or something. We just knew we had to spend a little more energy and time on training, and we've been doing that, and I think we'll continue to be doing that. Class comp study, check. You guys did it, and it's been implemented. Did it last year. Update CRPD master plan. The board, I think at the last meeting or meeting before, just kind of gave it the green light to go back to the consultant with all of your input and comments, so that the next version we see will have the environmental document with it, and we'll be able to really maybe move forward to get closer to putting the master plan to bed. Quimby fees, that kind of got put on ice. It's been put on like a hold. Interestingly, I actually have recently contacted our attorney again, and we have a call with Blair Oz from SCI, our consulting group, the engineers group, and our attorney's office to kind of restart a conversation about the Quimby fees. As you know, it's an additional cost on development and you know, just the environment of how much development already is. It's a tough balancing thing. So we'll be sharpening our pencils, and staff will be looking at that and bringing something back to the board. We have a committee too on that still, so that we'll bring something to the committee and then the board. Okay, additional pickleball courts, Dale, that's still on our wish list. We did in 2024 have a board meeting about it. We decided that the temporary solutions that may lead to a long-term solution, we didn't want to necessarily get into those because of the proximity to housing and the folks who had opinions about that out in the audience. So we kind of did a pause, and we've been pretty clear that with the Conejo Creek West project that's out there, because how far you can put something from nearby home, like we own the property, it's along the 23 freeway, and it's like 900 feet to the closest home. So that's been one of those maybe opportunity locations that we've been kind of crossing our fingers might yield something. Overtures to our partners at the school district have yet to bear fruit. So if you guys have your board buddy things, nobody's ever you know, suggested Jance Road or somewhere else. You know, the dirt lot next to the soccer field or something is something the school district's going to talk to us about. So we're kind of focusing on Conejo Creek West as a likely spot. Borchard Park approval process, I think we're getting ready to kind of get the final I don't know if it's bid or the proposal for the project's gonna come forward pretty soon. I'm kind of gonna give you, we had some sticker shock on some of the numbers, to be quite honest, and so we're gonna be bringing a report to you in about a month with, this is what it's looking like, guys, on that. We're still trying to get it fine tuned in terms of the response, but, it's significantly more than we had anticipated, so it's looking that way. Yeah, so, and we have neighboring jurisdictions who have very similarly sized projects that are seeing really high numbers too, so we actually know we're not, we know that we're in the market for this, like we're seeing the bids for other similar projects kind of in the range that we'll probably be bringing back to you guys, so that's out there. But it's ready to go, like we're there, we're really close to being able to start work. Same with the lighting. I think we're waiting for Musco to do the project, right? They got the contract.
Yeah, just to kind of add to that, they've been under contract. Part of their contract was to get electrical engineering. They have tentative plans for that. They're in coordination for building permits. I've approved some submittals, so that's in the works. Hopefully by early summer, we'll probably break ground sometime like late spring, but still kind of pending on ordering the materials. So progress, but just, yeah, nothing too exciting yet, just paper.
Sure.
So are they replacing the poles on that?
Completely new poles.
So we approved like 210,000, but now that could be.
No, we're under
Or-
contract with them.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
there's no like contingency in that contract that they can up based on material costs?
Typically not with a provider like Musco. Yeah. And two, we were already under contract back in November. So we have that. If there are significant changes like field type stuff, but typically we're solid with the numbers that they gave us under contract.
Oh,
So-
okay. I was just curious.
But then like Jim was saying, unique times thing, but that has not been made an issue to my knowledge. So, and I was in contact with them after the holidays as well as like late last week. So.
Okay. I was just curious with the steel. I don't know what they're made out of.
Yeah,
The
it's galvanized steel. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
what I kind of figured.
But then a lot of times too, like the reason why we use Musco is because they buy a lot of it and they already have it. And
Oh,
then,
okay.
so they have stockpile and
That
that's
makes sense.
similar to kind of like our playground companies. It's just, they do their annual increases, but it's a project by project. They're not looking to catch up with the market. So.
Oh, that's good to know.
I'm gonna come, you want me to do H? I'll do H at the end.
Okay, all right.
I keep revenue measures simmering on the back burner, doing that, simmering on the back burner. Not really the environment to probably talk about a revenue measure. So Conejo Creek Park Master Plan and improvements at Conejo Creek West. So that's the reference to the pickleball, and Andrew and the planning departments had some staffing changes, and they're still kind of working their way through. So, Andrew had a couple months, 2 or 3 months there where he was the only person in parks and planning. So thankfully that time has passed. We just had a new analyst start last week.
8 days in, correct?
8 days in, which is great. And the park planner position is out.
Park planner closed on Monday.
Okay.
So we'd be looking to do interviews in the coming weeks.
So those 2 positions, he's been without for three months or so. So he's, yeah. So that with the new positions, we'll be able to move forward with the, we took the survey, we had the surveys done and
Yes,
stuff.
right.
So we'll be able to bring something to the committee to kind of talk about what we're seeing, and then come back with a board and to the full board with a plan for public outreach to say, hey, here's what we heard from the community. Here's what we think we can do on this piece of property, and then begin that process. And, that's the kind of thing we should be doing when like construction's kind of real expensive and stuff, is all that planning work. It's a good opportunity. Then the grant funding and removal of non-native trees in or near the urban wildland interface, that's actually been going really well. If I know a couple of you have seen the work we did at Sopwey Trails in the in the kind of urban wildland interface there, we removed, I wish I actually had the numbers here, 250 higher. What was the number? Oh, that was a thumbs up. I thought you were saying higher. Yeah, something like 250 eucalyptus and 80 palm trees, like in that just one stretch of the creek and backyards there. So, and our grant required us to measure the biomass. So we were literally having, we had the Conejo Youth Conservation Corps, Safe Passage kids, go out and do, it was actually like a forester work.
Cool.
So they had to,
Cool.
yeah, so they had to do this
All right.
estimating of the biomass of the trees removed. So like, it was like 2 million pounds of trees. So we yeah, so that project's gone, and then we've actually used it in more spot locations. Given the fire situations, we should be doing this all the time anyway, but that hardening from, you know, the home hardening for fire from in out applies to us too. So like, we've been looking really closely at some of the McCrae Ranch buildings, especially the main house. The Stagecoach Inn, I think, got some attention recently. So some of our other buildings that have, you know, a lot of vegetation near them, we're kind of using them for some of that as well. L is continuing working with Safe Passage on, you know, keeping, you know, at-risk youth and at-promise youth. I think one of the great things there is obviously Tim Hagel is a force of nature. He's amazing. We're just kind of, you know, working with him, and he just explodes everything into something bigger. And then there's 7 other organizations involved and all sorts of stuff. It's, he's truly an amazing individual. And actually that will be the theme of our field trip, is kind of the Safe Passage, project. So that next week when we do that board field trip, we're going to do some Safe Passage stuff, to show you kind of some of the things happening with Safe Passage. Ordinance update was done. We got that completed. Structural house at Crowley, we are at building per, we're in the build, we're trying to get the building official to let us know what we can do to solve the bow in the floor. Is the building,
I'll take it.
yeah.
So we've been in coordination with the building department, and we have our architect taking the lead with some of the historical facets of the project, and coordinating our structural drawings. So those are back to the city based on the building officials' comments from our last review. And so we're just looking for an update from them. So, and then we'll have a better idea of, hey, we can get a permit, then we would get a bid, and see what we need to do there. So.
And just to, I know we just say things like assuming everyone knows, but since we have a member of the audience here, Crowley House is a 1910 historic landmark house that's, no one knows how to fix an old house like that exactly when it starts doing weird things. And then the very last one, the Arts and Culture Roundtable actually has been disbanded by the city recently. So we won't be working with the Arts and Culture Roundtable, but that doesn't mean that we won't still be focusing on art and culture issues, which kind of ties to the last item that I'm going to circle back to, the H, explore options for CRPD administrative offices in Hillcrest Center for the Arts. The lease expires in 2027. So we still have, you know, just short of 3 years, 2 years and 9 months here. Again, I have had an oral conversation with the city manager, and his indication is they have their plans and timetable for the downtown master plan, and assuming all those things happen, he doesn't foresee them having the ability to put us there until 2028. So he's kind of like, I'm not going to ask you guys to leave if we know you're coming here. But obviously him just talking to me about that isn't a done deal. So that's a hopeful sign that the city is looking out for Hillcrest Center for the Arts and what we might be able to do there at the city. But again, it's, you know, not clear exactly what's going to happen. They are working on they are working on designing us into the old city hall space, but replicating what we have here in terms of like ingress, egress for the amount of people we may or may not fit. That they have a lot of really, you know, they have people paying, getting paid a decent amount of money to try to figure out whether the kind of occupancies we have in the rooms we have here can fit into the bowels of the old city hall. So that's something that they're looking really hard at and seeing if we can fit over there. And of course, like I've always said, at what price. So we don't know what that is yet either. So yeah, our time here it has a current lease expiration date, and we are trying to figure out what our next move is. The city has been a great partner all these years, and they are continuing to sound like they want us to be part of their future in the downtown, which is all awesome and good and optimistic. But because if things don't work out as planned, I think we're kind of keeping an eye out at opportunities for maybe where might we land if we had to. So every once in a while I'll get a Zillow thing sent from Andrew about an office building that's about this size and what it costs and stuff like that. So we're in that mode. So I'm hopeful that the city will formally let us know where they stand and where they want our relationship to go in the coming months. I was hoping it would be early this year, but I don't know when, but hopefully soon. So that's Hillcrest Center for the Arts. With that, I'm available for questions and ideas, and this is your discussion on other things we should be focusing on or kind of working toward.
Thank you. Thank you for that review. I know we've got a lot of spinning plates. Appreciate you keeping a pulse on those. Yes, Director Cusworth.
So I didn't make a lot of goals for what I wanted. I didn't even think about that. But I did make a few notes. So I did want to, on the pickleball situation, Mr. Friedel briefly mentioned about the school property and our board buddies. I just wanted to say, because a lot of people who want to play pickleball have asked me several times, could you use the area by the soccer fields, thinking that that's our property, but it's not our property. It's the school property. So we have talked with the school, and right now they have other plans, I assume. So they're not wanting it to be pickleball property at this point. But that's not because of us. That's because that's not our property. So we have to look at property that we own, because there's not a lot of other property in the city that would be large enough to have a lot of pickleball courts that we don't own or that we could afford to buy. So that's a little bit of a holdup for us. So as Mr. Friedel mentioned, right now, Conejo Creek West seems like it would be our best bet, but that will be a ways down the road before we could put that together, and we'll see. Saying that, I did wonder, you probably gave us the results from the survey of Conejo Creek West. Have we had results? I don't remember, because if we haven't, I'd love to see them.
No, we got a huge data set. And so we wanted to kind of filter through, one of the items that was part of the survey is your home address zip code. So again, it's we know we have regional impact in park and open space, but really kind of taking a look at what folks in town are looking and wanting to do. And so we wanted to kind of filter through, and then also there is a handful of the questions that are others. And so we wanted to be able to really filter through those specific answers and be able to provide good data. And so like Jim mentioned, getting Luis on board as an analyst, one of his first projects is starting to digest that data and put together some charts and stuff. So the goal is in the coming, I don't want to say weeks, but months, I'll probably have a committee meeting, if not sooner, and then bring it back to the whole board with some action and addressing some of the planning type outreach efforts. So.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. I thought I was going a little crazy, because I thought I don't remember getting that. So it's actually a relief to me that you're saying we didn't get those results yet, because that will be interesting, to see. I wanted to mention, when you were talking about the funding for the thinning of all of the things, I was at Conejo, I was at the Stagecoach Inn yesterday, and it's amazing what Carrie has done there with the team. They've they slowly got rid of all the palm trees. That's taken a long time, but she went in and with contractors. Do you know who she took? Some kind of trail makers, contractors?
We use a couple different contractors. I would have to check. To
Okay.
See
Well,
specifically,
whoever
yeah.
they were, they did an amazing job, and they didn't want to do anything there for a long time because of the poison oak. But they're tackling it, and they took out all the dead wood. It's like they've opened up this entire area that I think it had been covered in dead wood and oak leaves. I've tried to walk through it before, and I could never get through it. It was like a, you know, really dense, overgrown area. So I think a lot of, because of the fires and everything, they were trying to minimize that as much as possible next to those buildings. But they did an absolutely amazing job. I was so impressed. So kudos to Carrie for doing that. I wanted to say arts and cultural roundtable, so that's broken up. However, we haven't broken up. We have an ad hoc art committee that is very, very dedicated. So I think we're still going to do great things. And I went over to Sapwe and saw our newest rock balancing art interactive art station. And you may remember at the last meeting, I said, well, do you have any like little ones done like that could be permanent so people know what to do? Every single boulder had stacked rocks on it. People did not know. I mean, people knew exactly what to do. And it's amazing that you just throw a pile of rocks and you have some boulders. Did you have your staff go out there and do that? Or, I mean, was this spontaneous? Because I was amazed at how many rock sculptures there were.
I'm sure they probably did a couple examples out there, but I don't know specifically how many they set up.
Well, I only had one boulder that I could stack on. And so then I stacked in the middle a little bit. And I want to compliment your team on the quality of the rocks. As a avid rock balancer, they had very nice sizes and they had very nice shapes. If you get all just round pebble things, they're very hard to balance. But they had some between very round ones with some with flat and one, I should show you on my phone, that was absolutely amazing. A fairly large one that was just perfectly balanced. And the nice thing about these is you can go in a week and it'll be all different because it's just changing art. So I can't think of anything you could have done that would have made me happier than to go and look at that rock balancing area.
Just to confirm, I didn't do anything. I will let my staff know that you were very happy though.
Yes, please tell them that I was very, very happy. No, well, I'm very into rock balancing, and if you came to my house, you would see that. And wherever I go, I rock balance. I take pictures of balanced rocks. It's a deal for me. So I'm really glad to see that that happened, and I think that we could have a lot of goals to improve arts in our park that wouldn't cost that much. I can't imagine that that was a very expensive project. Okay.
I can find out. Probably a couple $1,000.
No.
It was under my, I didn't sign
Yeah.
up on it.
Yeah, it was probably a couple $1,000 to, without labor because it was in-house. So.
It was great. It was a great project. In fact, maybe on some future field trip, we should all go there and you could all enjoy balancing rocks. I'm telling you, you'll like it. It was wonderful. Okay, you talked about the lighting. I was wondering when that was actually happen, and you've talked about the Borchard Skate Park. So I was wondering about that. We talked about that. So now we're coming to the lease option with downtown. So so I think the city's being very optimistic. If they have everything ready by 2028, they may. But my question is, let's say that it doesn't happen that quickly. Could we negotiate something that we could stay here until they had a place for us to go? I mean, let's say that it takes them to 2030. Would they allow us to stay here, or would we have to just leave while they were figuring it out? Because to go someplace and try to replicate all of our theaters and everything we have would be highly expensive and difficult to do. So what do you think?
I think we've kind of intimated that that would be our, desire and preference and all that kind of stuff. So the question, I suppose, becomes one of, would they want to take an opportunity to sell it if somebody was interested in buying it before we were ready to move to a more permanent home. So obviously there's ongoing conversations. We need to have some more formal, real sit down, like here, what can happen and what can't. And I just don't get a sense they're ready for that yet.
Okay, because I was just concerned that we could say, okay, sure, we'll go downtown, but if we're going to go downtown, we have nowhere to go in between when we're going to go downtown. And so there would have to be some negotiation there because this isn't like a facility we can just pick up and leave. And we would have to cancel so many of our programs because we can't do that. So I think, I know they do want to sell this property, that will help finance, but that is a huge consideration. So anyway, I was just wondering if that could be thought of because we can't just pick up and leave and continue all of the programs that we have here that are not just benefiting Conejo Rec and Park, but are also benefiting places like, is it, well, what is it called now? Five Star Theatricals, don't they use our rooms? Like, we have a lot of other community organizations that are using our theaters, that are using our practice rooms, that are using our meeting rooms. So it's not a place we can just leave.
Yeah. And I mean, like, our history with the city has always been one of mutual, like, understanding and cooperation and making things work for the community. And I don't have any sense that that wouldn't continue to be the case. So I'm
Okay.
optimistic.
I would be optimistic also, just
Yeah.
because the city's been very, very supportive
Yep.
of most of the things that we want to do. My question is, I think they could make the space work. I think the biggest question that I would have with the whole downtown is just the traffic and parking situation. So I think that's what they need to be looking at. So hopefully they can figure that out if we go down there. Also, with Safe Passage, was the field trip going to take us anywhere near the Jan's house?
Indeed.
It is,
Mhm.
okay. So, so I've kind of have a little project kind of, that I haven't really mentioned much of trying to get grants to, repair the Jan's house, which is a historic landmark. And of course, I'm extremely interested in historic landmarks. And it hasn't been occupied for several years, and buildings that aren't occupied for several years get rodent infestation, they get dry rot. There's other things that are a problem, such as asbestos, they have lead paint. Everything could probably be fixed without too much money. But it has foundation issues, that might take some money. But, I've talked quite a bit with Tim Hagel, and he would be interested in using the building in certain ways. It wouldn't be necessarily open to the public. I've talked with Brian with Casca to see if CASA might want to use the space, if we would want to perhaps have a visitor center that would be right near the door. It would be good for the community. So hopefully we can have some negotiations with the city so that Tim and the Historical Society can perhaps write some grants to improve the building, make a better space for safe passage, which is definitely improving our city. It's something I'm very passionate about on both terms. So, but I wasn't going to bring it out, but I thought if we're going on a field trip in a couple of weeks, then we might as well let the board know what my intentions are. At this point, it would not be costing CRPD any money. So, but anyway, that's kind of a little pet project I have going on. And Jim has been my partner in crime. So that's all I have for now, but all of you may come up with a lot of other ideas that I want to talk about too, but
Thank you, and especially for being impromptu with not having a shopping list already made. That's obviously you've been thinking about these things, so appreciate that.
oh, well, I just wrote some
Perfect.
I didn't come up with any big ideas. You know that I want to have a splash pad, but I didn't even bring it up. You know, you know that I want sculpture in the parks, but I didn't bring that up either. I mean, after this whole thing that
Let's get them out.
when we're talking about capital is more expensive and we're gonna have employee negotiations and construction costs are going up, I thought, okay, I'm happy with those stacking rocks at Sapway. I mean, that may be all I'm gonna get, so.
No, like we should have our ideas and dreams and visions out. Like what I might suggest is they don't make it necessarily in the 2025 goals and objectives if maybe cost is an issue, but maybe in the strategic plan, like, hey, over the next 5 years, or frankly, it's your decision, not mine. So like we could pull the revenue measure back out and say, hey, here's all the things we want to pay for and try that again. So it's you guys, so.
Thank you.
I agree with her.
Who's next? All right, Director Heffer.
Go for it. Let's hear it.
No specific ideas, but as I read through some of these 2024 goals and objectives, I guess I get a little bit depressed maybe, see that we've had to back burner the Quimby fees and park impact fees, and we've had to back burner the revenue measures, and neither of those look particularly hopeful. Jim pointed out the problem with the Quimby fees, and would have been nice if that proposition had passed where we could get a 55% requirement for passage of revenue measures as opposed to 2/3. I know it's always been one of our primary goals and objectives, but they aren't necessarily going to be able to provide funding, but perhaps we need to put even greater emphasis on various partnerships that we have a pretty good partnership with the city. We've got a decent partnership with the school district, but there are a lot of nonprofit and for-profit organizations in the community, and perhaps we need to be working even harder on those partnerships if we can't, in the foreseeable future, hope to get additional significant funding from more traditional sources. So I'd just like to see even increased emphasis on working on partnerships at all levels in our community and beyond the community, the state. I'm not going to try partnerships outside the state, but
No, that's not gonna
no.
work.
Thank you. Director Buss.
So Jim told me that I could say whatever I wanted at Rotary.
Your meeting.
He said that. So I was like, oh, we actually could say things that we really want. So Splash Pad, 100% on board with that. Been wanting that since my kids were little. I will force them to go at 10 and 13, or even if they're 16 and 19, if we get that in. 100%. I'll be there too.
That's on the record.
Yes, that is. They will be there because I wanted them to do that when they were little. But I do think the updating the master plan to have more parklets. There's this really cool property somewhere on Jan's, I think might be interesting for a parklet. And I think we could find some other, hopefully maybe around the boulevard area to have a little parklet there. The Conejo Creek Park West, I really think that I would like to see that getting that solidified on what our plan is so that we could do phases like we're talking about with the community center or Conejo Community Center, so that maybe we could have phase 1 be putting in pickleball courts, which has been, in the 2 years I've been here, the most prominent people here. And maybe, as you're saying, with a partnership, we can, if we had a time frame for that, they could help us as well, so that we could get there sooner, depending on how much the skate park's going to cost, apparently. So maybe that's going to take up some money. But yeah, so those are the things that I was thinking about that really interest me, is definitely finding more land around where all the development's going to be. Maybe like here for a park, since there's going to be 3,000 units very close by, even more perhaps. But yeah, so that's what, and I do like the sculpture in the park too. I never heard you talk about that.
I got tired of talking about that.
I
This
did-
was all before you were here.
I know. See, yeah, see,
So,
Jim,
you know.
don't, we need to know that you're not gonna be a wet blanket on these ideas, okay? This is why I said I wasn't gonna bring things up, because I don't want you to just poo-poo our ideas here. And I want you to know that if you made a rock balancing sculpture that Chuck told me that he goes by there all the time, he does not participate, which I think you should make him participate. He is merely a spectator, but he did say they're amazing. So I'm gonna have to try this now. But yeah, so those were the things that when I was looking at this, I mean, I'd love to see those things happen sooner than later, because I feel like with government, like it just sometimes things take so long. And as I don't know how long Dale's been coming here, but I think I've seen him both years I've been on the board now. I'm to my, yeah. Yeah. See, so he's been here the 2 times, like 2 years in a row with me here. But yeah, I think especially people are just every day, even people my age are telling me how now they're playing pickleball, and I told them they're not allowed to until they're retired. That is not something that you're allowed to do. And so this is, and I said, you're causing a struggle for us here on the board. And if I see you in one of my meetings and you're in your 40s, that's not appropriate. Okay, you cannot come and complain about pickleball courts and wanting them, because I understand when you're in your 60s and 70s, because there is a time limit in which you're going to play pickleball. That makes sense to me. So I think we really need to work on the pickleball for these people. I'm not starting pickleball because I'm going to wait.
So you say.
I'm waiting till I am retired, which will be never. So those are my thoughts. And then as far as us moving, I will stay on the hoping that everything works out optimistic side, especially for Hillcrest Center. My nieces love that little program, so, or little big theater program.
Right.
So
The big-
that's
the big little bucks.
yes, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. All valid. Thank you. Director Orozco.
Yeah, great. Thank you. In terms of just quickly touching base on the city's arts and culture roundtable, I know that was disbanded, but have we explored options, maybe partnering with TO Arts or Art Trek as avenues for that kind of collaboration? And then in terms of like, if we're talking like wish lists for either 2025 or just the 5-year strategic plan, I'd love to see about pursuing some of our park signs in multiple languages. Enhancing our accessibility, like trail access for individuals of all abilities, whether that's identifying certain areas where individuals who are wheelchair bound can have access to open space, or maybe a specific trail, carving out some of that. And then exploring possibilities of a senior center location in Newbury Park, whether that's partnering with the city or partnering with, our libraries, just carving out a space for seniors on that side of town to access some of the amazing programming that we currently have at our global center. Um, and then possibly exploring, I don't believe that this currently exists or that we have this, but exploring our own youth advisory council. I think that might be fun, just to get some input and some participation from our youth in just feedback or just active participation for our programming.
So, I have a question. We used to have something like that at the teen center, didn't we, Rochelle? Do we still? Yeah, I thought so.
Sounds like a great plan as well. Mr. Friedel, you have a lot of things to take care of
I'm
this year.
taking notes
Okay.
and I'm paying attention. All of it's good, right?
Oh,
It's
I
all
know,
good.
I know. It
It's
is.
a matter of what is
It is.
financially.
And if,
No matter what
and if,
Melissa tells us we can do.
if we're gonna stop by the Jan's house, could we also stop by the whole access trail head?
Yeah.
So Ms.
Yeah.
Orozco can see that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I went through the list as well, the 2024 goals and objectives, and I also looked at the entire strategic plan, made a few comments. But I think you made some very good points, Mr. Friedel, about just looking at the current status of affairs, whether it be our local economy, state, federal, world, they're all kind of combining together, especially with the LA fires. It's going to have a significant impact for at least 5 years, if not beyond that. It's going to affect rents. It's going to affect politics. It's going to affect housing. It already is in all those areas. The housing prices in Phoenix and Las Vegas are going up daily with all the people leaving the state. So, yeah, we're going to have some definite ripple effects of that, whether it be construction costs or housing costs, rents, everything else that's affiliated with that. So I just was thinking from looking at the elements beyond our control, that we just have to be prepared to respond accordingly. And with our wish list to kind of be pragmatic and practical about that. And it's not just for this next year, but I would say for the next 5 years as we look ahead, because we're going to be seeing this significant changes, I'm afraid. Whether it's good or bad, I don't know. Well, remains to be seen. But as I was looking at this list, I was thinking of the types of things that I would want to emphasize is shovel-ready projects, and planning, because you can get those things done today. So so for example, we kind of made our final approval on Conejo Community Park. We now have basically a shovel-ready project. And I know we're already starting on the phase one, but it's like, okay, that one's ready to go. So if we have funding available, that's the type of project that we should be targeting is projects that we have that are already shovel-ready. We've gone through the planning process. And then on this other list, it's like, well, what are other types of planning projects that we can continue to move forward so we will have more shovel-ready projects available when that funding opportunity arises, and whether it be funding that we generate ourselves, funding that comes from partnerships, funding that comes from grant opportunities. I think we just need to be ready to be opportunistic and see what's coming. And do we have something ready that fits that need? So if we get some of these plans in alignment, that we'll have multiple options. So depending on what funding comes up, we can say, okay, that one fits. Let's use it for that type of funding. Oops, sorry. So item C, updating the master plan. That's a planning effort. Continue to focus on that. Addressing Quimby fees, that's a planning effort in a sense. It's planning for funding. So I think that should be an emphasis. Definitely item H, planning ahead for our administrative offices in the Hillcrest Center. I think that's another planning effort. The Conejo Creek Park Master Plan, item J, that should be an emphasis. And what I don't see on our list is Conejo Community Park. It's not here on our 2024 goals, so that should be added to the list. It's underway, but I think, again, now we're into the implementation phase. So just like with Borchard Skate Park, it needs to be added to the list. And then I would also suggest, with some of the emphasis we've already made, that COSCA has already made with wildfire protection planning, and the local LA region, this is going to be continued part of the discussion to continue those efforts locally. So, okay, what can we do for wildfire protection planning for parks? Also for community, it will be for, COSCA as well, have to emphasize that on their portion. But that's going to be continued. I mean, we just see it every day. This is a discussion item. So we need to kind of take another look. And just last night at our COSCA board meeting, we had several members from the Lindmere neighborhood, you were there as well, Mr. Friedel, that were asking, can we go further than 100 feet to vegetable space and go to 200 feet? So it's already happening locally. So I don't think we should just let someone else drive that. I think we should drive it for our own responsibilities. Obviously, we are half of COSCA, not all of it, but we have our own parks, and some of our parks are right up against open space. Or, for example, like Conejo Community Park, has urban wildlife interface with our neighbors. So I think we need to take an extra look at those facilities. Say, okay, let's make some plans for that. Again, it's not necessarily go out and with a chainsaw today and start trimming, but it's taking a survey and assessment. Again, keep emphasizing this planning part. Let's put that on the to-do list. It'll costs some money as far as, you know, whether it's consultants or staff time, but it's all that planning thing, planning effort, I think should be a big focus on what we do with in the, like I said, in the next 1 to 5 years. So that we are prepared to jump on opportunities as they come. And then along with that, I think as far as, you know, what can we do, continue to look at, you know, what are the expressed community interests like pickleball, like the skateboard parks, you know, what is the community telling us, not necessarily what we want to do, but what is the community showing us? You know, there's an expressed interest. We have waiting lists for the equestrian facility. So, okay, what can we do for those expressed interests? You know, it's not just a dream. It's like people are asking for that. They're wanting that. How can we meet those needs? So I think those are the types of things we should emphasize. And again, I'm kind of saying this for this year, but it's really as we look to into the 5-year future, because I don't think we're going to be in a position, just as you mentioned with the construction cost, to go out and do a whole lot of capital improvements. I think we're going to be in the maintenance mode for a number of years. And until that settles, then we can start looking at the big picture, unless we can get some funding or partnerships that help us in one or more of those projects. And then as far as reviewing the plan itself, the strategic plan, I just found 4 or 5 items here that caught my attention. Item 2.9 was referencing the long-term location of the administrative office, but that did not reference the Hillcrest Center for the Arts. So, and I know it's here on our 24 goals and objectives, but it's not part of our strategic plan. So I think 2.9 should also include the Hillcrest Center there.
Oh,
And-
there's like
and
Hillcrest
the
Center.
Hillcrest Center.
I see.
Because that's, I think that's an important part, you know, as we talk about, you know, trying to be incorporated within the city hall complex. The administrative offices for the district could really be anywhere. They could be downtown, they could be here, they could be in the, one of the industrial complexes, an office, they could be anywhere. But the Hillcrest Center for the Arts needs to be in an accessible location. I mean, we have lots of moms and dads that are coming, dropping kids off, watching them go into the building and leaving, and they feel really good about that. They're not going to be able to do that at City Hall. I mean, because they're trying to make it pedestrian friendly. They're not trying to make it car friendly. And we still live in a car neighborhood. You know, the buses around here are not, we don't have a grid system. You know, it's not like a typical, it's not like San Fernando Valley where buses are going north, south, east, and west. You just hop on one and go. So it's hard to use mass transit. We still live in a car community. So that's my concern, is for the Hillcrest Center for the Arts and all those other communities, even reservations and where people are showing up, you know, stopping off and getting something done with their kids and then moving on. Administrative offices, I think it'd be a good opportunity, because I know you're being part of the executive team, Director Mooney working with the planning staff, you know, would be a good combination to have you nearby, where it just facilitates that interaction. But the other activities here, I think it would be a real challenge to accommodate that there, and to be able to have that 100-seat theater, or approximately, I'm not exactly sure, for practicing all the time, and the dance studios that we have up here. That's going to be hard to replicate and be used in the way that we use it here. So that's why I want to make sure that that's emphasized as a component of that. Item 3.1.4 on the strategic plan. This is regarding the underfunded long-term liabilities. I just bring that up to ask Director Smith, with the items that are listed there, capital, CalPERS, Social Security, part-time, OPEB, pension stabilization. With the efforts we've made with pension stabilization, is that still considered an underfunded long-term liability?
No, they are not underfunded. They are fully funded, but because the valuations change every year, I think that's why it says actively managed.
Okay, because I just was wanting to give us credit where credit is due. If we could
Totally.
take that off the list and say, no, we cross that one off, we're in a good place with that. So just to kind of look at that list and say, what do we need to revise on that list?
Actually, yeah, I think you just take out the word underfunded
Yeah.
and then just continue to actively manage long-term liabilities, right? Like that is one of the things we need to pay attention to every year and not just assume it's gonna be fine. So,
Yeah.
cause right now, after 12 years of work, we aren't underfunded, we're funded.
Right.
So-
I
so
just
maybe
wanted
we
to
just
give
take out the
you
word
and us
underfunded, yeah.
credit for
Yeah,
checking that off and say, okay,
Yeah.
that one's done. So however, that needs to be modified, just to make sure that that's addressed. And then item 5.9 under disaster preparedness, I would like to suggest that we also add public safety power shutoffs to preparation planning.
what number was that?
5.9,
5.9.
disaster preparedness. Because of the conflicts we've had with shutdowns and them shutting down our centers, which are proposed shelters during disasters. So we should include that as how to address that, whether we call that disaster preparation planning or, and it is because it's a disaster and that it's in this case, it was a strong wind event and anticipating wildland fire, which did occur elsewhere, fortunately, not in our community. But I just want to point that out. We need to include that because that's happening on a more regular basis than any other disaster, and we're not prepared for it. And then item 8.8, community wildfire. Again, I just already mentioned that because of the LA fires. And I say LA fires because that's local, but you look at the news that we've had with all the fires throughout the West, throughout California, the urban conflagrations. It's not really wildfires, it's urban conflagrations that are happening. And how that affects our community, we just need to make that an emphasis and what is our role in that for part of our community. We've got, like I said, parks and special facilities all over the community, some of which are in these high fire hazard areas. And my concern is if we are relying on those as shelters in some locations, that we need to do all that we can to make sure that they are completely safe for multiple incidents, including wildland fire. So those are the ones that struck out to me as far as part of the strategic plan that we perhaps need to revise a little bit. And I know that's a printed document, but I know we also have online versions where you can perhaps adjust that a little bit. So those would be my comments as far as long-term and short-term and where I see us in the next year plus.
On that last one, I just point out tonight, you guys approved the Conejo Community Park building, and that is going to be a stucco masonry stone, building, and the current building is wood open eaves,
It's gonna go up like that.
Right.
Just
Well, it's
check
like,
all the
yeah, you guys
boxes.
it's a good thing we're doing that project.
Yeah,
when it
absolutely.
can happen.
Absolutely. Okay, so did we fill up your to-do list? Any other comments on this? This is just item for discussion, no action on our behalf, but anybody else have any trailing ideas? I'm sure if things come up, we can always pass them along to the general manager. It's not a final type of process. Okay, let's move on to item 10, reports and announcements. We have a number of items presented by staff. Did anybody have any questions on those items A through D and reports and announcements? Yes, Director Cuthbert.
I just had a comment on page 54 about our recreation staff involvement on all of these, boards and committees throughout the state. I think, and throughout our city. I think this is highly impressive. So, above and beyond.
That reminds me, I was remiss in recognizing our new supervisor, Tim Smith, tonight. I saw him there and I forgot to point him out. Tell him it was my bad. Okay, thank you. With that, we'll move on to item 11, department reports, and we'll start with the Parks Division. Director Mooney, please.
Nothing to share tonight, but available for any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Mooney? Seeing none, we'll move on to item B, Recreation Division Report. Director Callis.
Thank you. Just a few things. So yes, we have a teen advisory committee. It meets on a monthly basis and there's approximately 12 youth that are involved in it. And they plan a lot of the special events. They actually raise money through the special events and then they're able to plan how they're going to spend that money to help make the teen center better or do other things. So it is on the website and you're welcome to join a meeting one day. They're actually very good meetings that the kids talk a lot about interesting stuff.
Great. Love to
Um,
join.
Yeah, and they're actually planning a backyard block party on March 1st, which is also unplugged. Thank you, everyone, for letting me make you fill out papers today and take pictures of you. I'm sure marketing will be using those pictures over the next couple of weeks or for sure during the month of March for the unplug event. And just a couple of highlights on March 1st. You can check out the website for a ton of scheduled events. Spring Arts and Crafts is also that day, so free go shop, fun, local people selling their goods. And then there's an archery workshop at Dos Vientos also that day. So just a lot of really fun things going on. So check out the website or the flyer on your way out the door. You can take a picture of it.
Yes, I did see that. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you very much. Okay, Management Services Division Report. Director Smith.
Thank you, Chair and Directors. So we are in budget season officially, and we had 3 days of lots of meetings with every single center to talk about their budgets, and they provided SWOT analysis for their units, and we had a lot of good conversations, and everybody came super prepared and let me ask a bunch of very detailed, annoying number questions, and they were fantastic. So budget's coming along really well. And also on that note, I have a few templates of different budget reports to change based on some of your questions, Director Huffer, for the budget reports that you get every month in your packet. We want to have the auditor opine to make sure that they want to make sure that certain things are in those reports accurately before we change the formatting. So I'm just waiting for them to finish the MRCA audit before I ask him to opine on those. And then we'll be getting those to you for you can have your pick of the different structures. So that's my update.
Very good. Any questions? I just had one. Could you clarify what you mean by centers? You said we interviewed the different centers.
So each work center, so we've got grounds and buildings and finance and IT, and then she's got 10. So every
11.
single center came and met with us individually.
Thank you. Okay, next, General Manager's Report.
Yeah, I feel like I've talked plenty, but very quickly, I did attend on February 7th, the CLU's economic forecast. Actually, it's Rotary did it at CLU. But one of the main topics was, not only the counties, Matthew Feinup, and he does a great job on economic forecasting, but it also had guest speakers and fire insurance was part of it. And so it was pretty interesting and eye-opening. And like the world is going to be different in the next year or so. And I'm not sure how, but it probably won't be good if you're worried about money and how much your home is to insure. And on March 24th, the state of California will be dropping their fire maps for Southern California. So we'll kind of see the reaction in Northern California, I think, in the months ahead. But, there's
piecemeal.
Yeah, you can pretty much assume that big swaths of this community are going to be labeled inside the high fire severity zones, which does now, I think I'm trying to pay attention to all the moving parts, but I think the insurance commissioner can now, or is allowing the insurance companies to account for that status.
They're allowing them to do catastrophic modeling, which was never permitted before.
Right. So if you're paying for home insurance, get ready because things are going to be different.
And it's not just going to affect those in the wildland areas. It'll be statewide.
I'm not going to say what Kiwanis did. I'm going to let another board member do that, but a board member do that. So I don't want to step on toes, right? So on 2/12, Andrew and I met with reps from the Jantz Marketplace and the potential likely buyer, Sterling. The specific plan for Jan's Marketplace is kind of in its coming together through the city and whatnot. And I think the status of that with the city will kind of inform the buyer whether they're interested. Their interest in us was, okay, exactly how do these Quimby fees work? And, you know, if we don't want to do a park, what kind of check are we writing? And the potential buyer was really good about suggesting they are supportive of parks and they do understand that their new, you know, future tenants will be needing park land. So it was a good meeting. I felt pretty good about it, actually. Matt Kuba went to his last Casca board meeting last night. As you guys know, he's going to retire towards the end of March. And then I'll let a Casca board member mention who's the new chair and whatnot of Casca. Tomorrow, I am going to meet with Jackie Irwin and her staff from both Sacramento and the district, and they are interested in talking about fire. They're going to take a tour of like the Palisades burn area, but they wanted to talk to like a Casca/CRPD person about what we do with fire, brush clearance, and what's our processes and all that kind of stuff. Among other things, it's kind of just a field trip for her staff too. It's like, what is CRPD and Casca? So that'll be good. And then next week, the 23rd to the 26th, both Melissa and I will be going to the Parma conference. I'm going as a member of the Capri board and they're paying for it. And a member of the Capri board backed out. So Matt extended the invitation to Melissa, so she's now going to go too. But it's PARMA stands for the Public Agency Risk Management Association, and so I'm sure we're going to hear a lot about fire and all that there too. So that's a great conference because it has like all the insurance defense law firms, the big public agency law firms. It's got your third-party administrators that kind of run your workers' comps and your liability programs. And then it has insurance people at it. And it's really boring subject matter, really. It's important and it's interesting. So yeah, so we'll be there learning all sorts of stuff about risk management. So with that, I'm available for questions.
Questions for our general manager? Seeing none, thank you for your report and for keeping involved in so many boring and yet necessary things. But it's all necessary. We appreciate that. All right, we'll take this to director's reports, meetings and conferences, and those attended. I'll start with my right, Director Cusworth.
I gave a lecture to the CRPD staff about the history of Conejo Valley, which was very nice. And they seemed to be very receptive. And even if most told me they enjoyed it that I talked to, but if they didn't enjoy it, I'm sure they still learned something. So Jim and I met with Kara and Brandy for the transition of the Ventura County Special Districts. So we have their box, and I guess all of this data is being transferred to Raquel. And so we're working on that. I was at the McCrae Ranch Valentine's event, and it was sold out, I think, plus. It was very, very good. I went to the Chamber's Tourism Board meeting, which it's mainly people that own hotels, but I thought being the museum liaison, for CRPD and that museums are a big part of tourism. And I'm also an avid hiker. They welcomed me very nicely and told me I could come whenever I wanted. So I'm hoping to be a part of that group. And then I was at a Stagecoach board meeting. And then coming up, I want to remind you all of the kind of event of the year, which is the square dance at the Global Center. And if you do decide to come, they will present you and mention that you're part of the board. They're very grateful for CRPD and all of the support that they've given us. They would probably start square dancing at 7:30. You would probably want to come and see square dancing if you haven't seen it before. It's very fun to watch and even more fun to participate in. And then they will announce us after that. And a thank you to Rochelle and Charlene for making a nice certificate for us to give them, congratulating them on 50 years of providing this service to our community. And if that's not enough to want you to come, I will be wearing a square dancing skirt, which I never wear, but I am going to wear a square dancing skirt, and I will square dance at least one. On the 23rd at the Stagecoach Inn, Mike Malone is going to be speaking. If any of you want to come and support that speaker series, he's going to be talking about movies shot in Western National Parks. He gave it at McRae Ranch. It was very good. And so I asked him if he'd give it at the Stagecoach Inn. So he will be there. So that will be interesting. It's a $10 donation. And I hadn't seen any emails coming through, but Ed Jones' funeral is at 2:00 on the 22nd, this Saturday, at the Presbyterian Church. Emmanuel Presbyterian. Camino Manzanas, thank you. And Lynn Road, right there at that corner. So if anyone's interested. I'm finished and available for questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Director Cusman? Thank you. Director Orozco.
My schedule this past couple weeks has been pretty light. I think I only had the property acquisitions committee meeting with Director Buss. Other than that, that was it.
Very good. Thank you. Director Buss.
Yes, so I had the property acquisitions, which was very exciting. And then we also had the Conejo Youth and Family Coalition meeting. And so we have two new people from, or a new person from the city and a new person from the school board. So that is awesome to get new perspectives. We talked about our summit that we do every year. And the point of the summit, if you don't know, is just to get the nonprofits that are in the community together so that they can collaborate with each other. And we usually have, or one year we had just a kind of a brainstorming focus. Last year we had it more speakers that were a little more focused. And we thought we were going to do something similar this year based on a lot of the feedback that we heard last year, which was actually hate speech and how prevalent it is in our schools and our community. But we might be kind of switching that and really trying to focus on what families in our communities need. We do have she is from the school board, or not from the school board, I'm sorry, she's from the school district, and she focuses on the families in need, like the actual ones. So we were talking to her about that, and really, which I'm sure you're not surprised by, but the biggest thing that they need is rental assistance. And there's not many nonprofits offering that. In fact, there is none right now. So when they get funding, it usually goes out pretty quickly. So we're kind of collaborating on that and seeing what our focus will be. And I hope if you have time, you will attend it. It won't be until September, right? I was supposed to say August, I'm like, it's September. So, but yeah, I think it's a great group and hopefully we'll have a good summit for it. And that's all I have for you.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, Director Huffer.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate Jim reminding me in a couple of things that I was supposed to at least briefly mention. We did have a Costco board meeting last night, and we did recognize Matt for his many years of service to the Park District, to Costco, and to the community as a whole. And Jim awarded him with a temporary fire extinguisher, which Matt had to promise to return. Did he return that fire extinguisher? He did. It was here. Okay, all right. So anyway, it was sad to have to say goodbye to him, but Elaine Hagan and a couple other folks spoke about Matt and everything that he's done. So that was really good. And then just over a week ago, had a number of familiar faces who showed up at our Kiwanis meeting, wanting to collect, not wanting, Kiwanis Club presented fairly nice check to Play Conejo. And is Ryan the president, current president of Play Conejo? Okay,
Yeah.
Ryan Van Overen was there, and several of the board members from Play Conejo were there to receive the check and remind our club members of who Play Conejo is and what they do for the community. And it was actually sort of a fun doubleheader meeting, because in addition, our speaker that day was President Nunez? Nunes, from Cal Lutheran. And boy, let me tell you, that's the third or fourth time that I've heard him speak. He is an amazing speaker, and then his wife stands up and sings after he's done his presentation. That was quite a, I want to say triple header, because first we had Play Conejo, and then Dr. Nunes, and then his wife singing. So anyway, that was good. It probably was more than just in the last couple of weeks, but our last meeting, I forgot to mention, I did tune in some weeks ago. I think it was the Open Space Foundation. They have a speaker series as well, and they had a speaker talking about urban coyotes. That was
right,
sort of an
right.
interesting
Mhm.
talk, and very different from the people you hear online in the various online forums that are talking about all these coyotes roaming the streets, and lock up your kids and lock up your pets. And so that was interesting. And yes, I will be at your square dancing presentation Saturday evening. I will not be dressed up as a square dancer. I will not be square dancing. I told Marissa that I tried it a few years ago and I immediately dropped out. So I'm a former square dancer. So, but I will be there. So I tried. I tried and I hated it. So, but thank you. That's all I have to report on.
Thank you. The only event that I had that was CRP related this last 2-week period was the Costco board meeting last night, in which we appointed a new chair. Director Huffer will be the incoming chair now for Costco. So he's, yeah, that's right. Taking on that role, so he'll be leaving. And actually, sad to step in right away last night, because our chair at the Chair Engler was absent last night, so stepped in and took right over. So thank you for that. And just want to mention that since it won't be till afterwards, I'll be going to the Mardi Gras. I think probably I don't know who else will be going to. That's on March 1st. I'm planning to do that as well. That's the only thing I had to report. March will be a different story, but February was a little quieter. Okay.
I did forget one item,
Yes.
which I don't know
Yes,
how
go
I could forget it, but we opened up our tax program in the last 2 weeks, and I wasn't sure I was going to make tonight's meeting because we didn't get out of there until after 5. We did 65 tax returns today. So
Oh my.
that's kept us hopping. But yeah, we've seen, oh goodness, I think 400 or 500 clients in the first 2 weeks.
Wow.
So it was a little quieter last Thursday when it was pouring down rain. We only had 14 people that day. So fair weather tax clients. So anyway.
And that, I mean, not that particular topic, but I was also reminded that at the Costco board meeting, we accepted a trail easement from Limitless Church, which is on Herbs right there across from Hauser Circle, which will now almost get us, except for one property, from Rosario over in the Conejo Oaks all the way up to Glider Hill. They just have one little segment remaining. Otherwise, we got that whole trail section set up. So that was good news. Okay. Item 12, requests for status reports and items for subsequent agendas. Do we have any this evening? No. Okay. Items from the public. Do we have anybody remaining online from the public? No. We have no executive closed session.
Nope.
Oh, did you have something else to speak? Yeah. But just want to join us at the microphone, only because it's recorded, so we just need you at the microphone. And Yeah. And just state your name just so we have it on record, please. Sure.
Bringing something with Mark Radikoy in next meeting of large deep pockets company that may want to do something that could have a CRPD kind of inlay in it. So we'll see.
Okay.
You know, these things,
Very good.
we live in different times now. You know,
We do. And-
we have to reach out to the public and private and things and not rely on government, it looks like.
Right.
You know,
And it's so different that even high schoolers are playing pickleball.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I said earlier, the average age now is 34
Yeah.
years old, you know, to getting into pickleball. So
And you have very serious competitions in pickleball now. So
I don't move like a 34-year-old anymore. And you have to pick your games carefully now.
yes, yes.
And things. So moving on, I brought with me a file. It's a confidential packet of information, a letter to be presented to directors only. I have top secret clearance, so I know protocols. I would have to clear the room to bring it to your attention, or I can just give you the folder, which is one copy for all board members and one copy for council. So your choice, clear it, it would be, everyone would leave and go 20 feet away from the door. But, or I can just hand it to you, your choice.
Mr. General Manager, do we have a protocol for this?
Never happened before in my career, but up to the board, I suppose. It's pretty unusual. You're saying you just hand them something that.
Yeah, my
Confidential.
lawyers have put together a packet of information for you.
Yeah, no, I think you give it to the chair and the chair can
Yeah,
give it to their board
that's
members.
that's why I
Sure.
put it in a you know, in a folder like
Sure.
that and things. That's probably the best way.
If
And,
that's.
it
if that's
comes as a
acceptable to you?
letter with an invitation, and
Okay.
you can read it and it's self-explanatory.
Okay, if that's acceptable to you, you can just hand that to me and then I will
Okay.
make sure we
Thank
get
you.
it to our directors.
Yeah.
And to our council or, okay, our council, all right. Very good, all right. Thank you. And thank you for staying for the evening.
It was very interesting because I now have a professional relationship with firefighters. I was at the Palisades Incident Center in Malibu for a week.
Oh, gosh, okay.
And I actually had eyes on the fire about 10 minutes after ignition.
Oh, my gosh, okay.
Whoa. Connected with Guy Ferrari.
Yes, yes,
Has rig to feed first. responders.
yes, yeah.
I called. 4,500, 5,000.
Oh, my gosh, okay. Wow.
It's a lot better
And
than
it was pretty windy trying to hold a plate of food. It was a very moving experience, and he's a very generous man, and him and I share a big friend, we all went to chef school.
Oh, okay, okay.
My friend. Yeah, San Francisco.
Okay, okay,
Retired. I said, "We're gonna be down here in about 7 hours."
okay,
But great.
perfect. Well, thank you for your help.
We were talking about it was not, I was not bored. I
Yeah.
was very, you know, very interested.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. All right, thanks for being here this evening.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, now I think we can finally adjourn. And our next meeting will be March the 6th at 4 o'clock, correct?
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, we're gonna meet it 2 hours early and so it's a special meeting. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, thank you all.